A little bit later on today in the show, we will be joined by Josh Vernier. He, of course, is out in sunny and warm Surprise, Arizona. So around 12:45, he'll check in with us. And there's a chance maybe in this first hour we could have a player join us, but that's to be determined based on some availability. But if we get a player today, that'd be obviously pretty cool. Spring training is underway. And a reminder, tomorrow, first spring training game of the season right here on 96.5 The Fan. That'll be underway at 2 o'clock. Plus, Vern's got his hot stove show tonight, I think right before Logan, you hop on with After Hours. So Vern will be going there. But I actually want to start with the NFL today. And we know all the offseason discussion about left tackle and the discussion about what's the plan at offensive line. And I think the Chiefs, of course, have somewhat of their plan laid out internally. Whether or not they are able to execute it, as we know from many, many years ago, Trent Williams was once a plan A, and then they had to go to plan B and C, and that resulted in Orlando Brown Jr. being acquired. But a former NFL offensive lineman and the brother of former Chief Mitchell Schwartz, Jeff Schwartz, was talking on his own social media channels, and he does variety of stuff, Fox Sports Radio, et cetera, about how he would fix the O-line. I thought it was really interesting, a point he made about Kingsley Suamataia, and he thinks perhaps fans have already moved on a little bit too quickly on him as a tackle or at least as an offensive lineman in this Chiefs organization. Listen to this from Jeff Schwartz.
The other idea that I've seen around is just draft another offensive lineman at 31. Whew, buddy, you have other holes on the roster, right? I talked about, I'll mention them again, right? So the pass rush was horrendous against the Eagles. Now their offensive line is really good. We get that. They stopped the run really well, but you need someone to rush the passer. This is a great defensive tackle class. So follow that away for a second. Your middle linebacker most likely going to walk. I don't think the Chiefs are going to play Bolton. I'm not sure they're going to pay Reed, but you have Hicks and you have Cook. Like maybe that's a solution right there. You know, you probably want one more veteran wideout, especially with Rice being suspended at some point next season. But Rice and Worthy look like a good combination. You need more though, right? You know, running back, it's a good draft for a back. I think they're going to draft a back, but you need explosive back, maybe another tight end. Like there's other holes. You need kind of roster guys for your offensive line. There's other holes that they have to fill besides left tackle. And it's not a tackle class. That's great. And so you're just drafted a project in Kingsley who hasn't even played yet. And now you want to draft another project at 31 but you haven't even tried the other guy yet. Like, unless the Chiefs decide Kingsley is the worst offensive lineman they've ever drafted and he is not going to play. Eric Fisher, guys, was not good as a rookie. Not good in his second year, maybe by his third year. Like, they eventually got him good. Like, you need reps, but the reps last year, again, were limited because the Chiefs' goal was trying to win a championship.
So that was Jeff Schwartz. I agree with a decent chunk of what he had to say. For starters, I think the last point is key to remember with any of the young players a year ago. They were in the middle of a three-peat campaign, and you didn't have time to say, all right, we'll go with the growing pains of a Kingsley or Wanye Morris. We got to fix this. They thought DJ Humphries could fix that. Then he gets hurt in that Chargers game. And then, of course, we all know they settle in with Joe Tooney. And for a majority of the time, it was effective until it wasn't in the Super Bowl, obviously, Logan. But the thought about Kingsley, it is true. He's only played 2 games. I think to say that he can never help this franchise would be foolish. But I'll be honest, I really cannot imagine them going into next season with Kingsley at left tackle. Now, can he be the guard? Can he be the right guard if Trey Smith walks and then the Chiefs move on from him because he's going to get a huge deal? Yeah, I think that's in the cards. But I don't think Kingsley can be your left tackle despite him being correct that, hey, it's only 2 games of a sample size.
I completely agree with everything you just said. I understand the thought process that, yeah, you didn't give him enough run to have him figure himself out. But I also stand by the fact that he seems to me as more of a road grader type. I mean, he's not the strongest. He's certainly not the fastest. He doesn't have the most precise footwork. And those are some of that stuff you can obviously work on. But with this Chiefs team in the position that they're currently in, the success that they've had recently, I still don't believe you have the time to let him figure it out. I agree with you. I think he would be a good fit at right guard. I think he would be a good fit at right tackle. I think he's got a lot of versatility. Wanye Morris is more of a swing tackle type in my view. I think he's a depth piece. I don't think he is an every down, every weekend sort of left tackle. So if Trey Smith walks this offseason, which I think is becoming increasingly more
the
likely
money's
day
just
by
not
day,
gonna be there.
it absolutely makes no sense. If they weren't going to tag him for $23, $24, $25 million, you're not going to go out and pay him $23 to $25 million on a 4 or a 5 year deal, especially with the salary cap increase. He's going to earn a pretty penny. You have other needs you have to get met, right? What do you decide to do with Nick Bolton? Because we know how much Steve Spagnuolo loves him. And I think there are options at your disposal at the tackle position if you choose it. I agree that maybe you don't go with a left tackle at 31. I would like to see them attack the interior of their defensive line at 31. Or maybe if Charles Omenihu walks, you're going to let Uche walk because he wasn't, he didn't provide anything.
Social media's favorite player, Josh Uche. Everybody was so devastated when he didn't play. He didn't play, so they're not going to bring him back. There's no love lost there. So maybe you attack it with an edge rusher. I'm not sure. But I think that there are guys in free agency. I look at Alaric Jackson with the Los Angeles Rams, who just put up a career year. He was top 20 among all left tackles in both run blocking grade and pass blocking grade, at least according to Pro Football Focus. I think he would be, a reasonably priced option at left tackle. Maybe a step down from the Orlando Brown that was in Kansas City, but serviceable. A guy that you're not constantly having to question yourself about week after week. So Kingsley, I think they kind of told us how they view him long term anyway. The way they went about their roster late in the year and in the postseason, which even the game day inactives, when Vernier was the inactive player, to your point about him being more of a swing tackle, and Kingsley was active as a guard because they weren't going to have Kingsley go out and play, right tackle or something like that. So I think that was already telling where the organization is shifting. I still believe he'll end up being a guard. The tackle point that you just made and Jeff Schwartz did about the draft aspect, I think that is something that everybody should remember heading in. We all know priority number one is the left tackle situation. I think the sad reality might be this offseason, that long-term answer left tackle may not be able to be found this offseason. Now, they need to find somebody that can start for 17 games or hopefully more, right, in the postseason, and that can give them average to above average play. They don't have to get a Hall of Fame level play out of their left tackle. Not at all. We went through this a couple weeks ago. You go back and look at the Brady's left tackles and even Peyton Manning's left tackles. They weren't all first ballot Hall of Famers. They weren't all Trent Williams starting at left tackle. They just need to have somebody that, of course, can be there consistently and give them above average play. But like the free agent class, I know you mentioned a name like Ronnie Stanley's out there. These are not long-term really options. Like Cam Robinson, okay. I don't think the Chiefs will give him the long-term deal that somebody else will. And so, therefore, I don't think there's a long-term option at left tackle. So at 31, you're like, well, then they need to go draft one. The only way I think the Chiefs, through the draft, are actually addressing left tackle effectively is if they do something they've only done a handful of times under Brett Veach. And that, of course, is trading up. But you're at 31, and the tackle draft, we'll see what happens to the combine. It sure sounds like if you're going to get one of those close to surefire tackles as you can have in the NFL out of the draft, you got to get inside the top 15. And I don't know if they're willing to do that, but that's the only way I think they're taking a left tackle in the first round because Jeff Schwartz is correct. If you take one at 31, it's no different than what we're talking about here. Are you going to camp with, I guess we'll keep Kingsley's name in the conversation, but with Kingsley, random rookie at 31, and then a vet, you're basically in the exact same spot. Unless, as he said, they just are already completely done with Kingsley, and I don't think they are. I think they're going to have him project to potentially be the starting right guard for this team in 2025.
If you get a left tackle at 31, there is just as good a chance if you were to avoid that, take somebody else at 31, there's a very real chance that same left tackle may fall into the middle of round 2. I mean, you're exactly right. When it comes to the tackle positions in the draft, if you don't hit on the first 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 tackles, usually within the first 15 or 16 picks, it's always a very top-heavy position in the NFL draft year after year after year. And this is a deep draft class at other positions. I think you could go get a very serviceable potential day one starter at defensive tackle at 31 if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You could find a handful of running backs in the second round if you wanted to. And you're exactly right. Trading up, that's how you go get a serviceable day one starter at left tackle. But Veach hasn't expressed a real willingness to do that, to move up to that extent, to move up 15, 16
McDuffie
spots.
was, 21?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't a massive leap from the back half of the draft to the front half of the draft. He's only really done that once, and that was for Patrick Mahomes. They only have 6 picks in this draft to begin with. So their draft capital is not pouring out of their pockets. They're not capital rich in that sense. And if there's one thing we know about this Chiefs team, they have so much money already tied up into their top 6 or 7 players with Mahomes and Kelce and Tooney. And unfortunately, Jawan Taylor is making $20+ million a year. You know, over 60% of your salary cap is tied up in your top 6 or 7 players. You do not have the money at your disposal to try to fill the other 45 spots on your roster with just free agents. You need draft capital to go find guys, especially in the later rounds, which they've become so good at. You can't really afford to give up those pieces to try to move up on a left tackle that still may or may not be the answer.
I think we'll also learn a lot of how they feel about this left tackle draft class, too, based off of how aggressive or not aggressive they are when free agency opens up at the left tackle spot. Because the names, Ronnie Stanley, et cetera, these names, I got a lot of questions about a lot of them, but can they just go ahead and say we are willing to risk the injury stuff with Ronnie Stanley? Because that's what you'd be doing if you sign him. You're risking that he's available or not. He was available this last year for the Ravens, 17 games, but the reason why the Ravens are moving on, he's getting old and he's had injury concern. Two scenarios that I know a lot of fans and you guys listening are not going to like, but if they're not going to be ultra aggressive and trade up, when they signed Jawan Taylor a couple years ago, everybody thought he was going to be the left tackle. Now, they never gave him a single rep at left tackle. Like, not even in practice, I don't think. Not a single rep, and we all know he's playing right tackle. And you might be saying, well, he hasn't even been that great at right tackle, and I understand. But is Jawan Taylor willing to give it a go at left tackle? If not, I think you might be sitting here, and as much as fans won't like it, DJ Humphrey still might be in the mix again at left tackle next year if they bring him back. But I think they can wait on that. That is not plan A necessarily or plan B. That's what I'm saying about plan C or D. Is there another guy we're not even thinking of that's on a team like Orlando Brown Jr. from a couple years ago that is a year left or so on his first-year deal, and that franchise is already not really sold on giving that guy the money, and the Chiefs say, hey, we'll trade for him. That was the Orlando Brown Jr. trade with Baltimore. So we'll get back into this a little bit later on, but a lot of questions, and I still think Jawan Taylor one is interesting to explore if I'm the Chiefs this offseason, unless he flat out told them that, hey, I'm not playing left tackle. But we'll get back to that a little bit later on. Alex Cole, Logan Weber here on Cody and Gold. So let's talk about college basketball, because last night the Missouri Tigers had, I actually think, their most impressive win of the season, considering how efficient they were on offense. When you score over 100 points in an SEC game, and they were at, 92 points with 6 or 7 minutes to go. Then it kind of slowed down a little bit, but they still ended up well over 100 points scored. That offense for a stretch or two was as good as any offense in the country yesterday against top 5 Alabama. So another top 5 win for the Missouri Tigers to add to their resume. And I wonder where everybody's expectation is at for them. There's still SEC play to go. There's still, 5 games, I think, on their schedule. The SEC tournament, best conference in the country. But when you're pacing, I think Missouri might end up with 25 wins heading into the NCAA tournament when this thing is over, and they've got the resume and everything like that. The expectation for them should be not just winning a game or two in the tournament. Like, it's Sweet 16 or more for Missouri. That should be the bar. And I understand, historically, that program, Elite Eight, is their high mark. They look a lot like the team in 08-09. That team lost in the Elite Eight. But that team was pretty dominant during the regular season and put it all together. They're fun to watch. And when you look at the way they're going about it and what they've done from a year ago where they didn't win a single conference game, which is just ridiculous to think about, to now where they're at, guys, they might be a number 3 or number 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. If you're a 3 or a 4, it's not just it may not even just be getting out of the first weekend. It might be even a further run than that.
Oh, no question. I mean, if you're a top 4 seed, the expectation should always be you got to get to the second weekend. You got to get to the Sweet 16 because that is where the seeding has placed you. this team is remarkable in the fact that the scoring can come from a variety of places. They have great interior players. Mark Mitchell coming over from Duke, he has been a massive boon for them on the interior. Although he's not always the most aggressive and reliable rebounder, he can score and score at will. I mean, he had 31 last night. And when you have a guy like Caleb Grill, who was an all Big 12 player at Iowa State, that comes off the bench and can put 20 on your dome on a night-by-night basis, that's pretty remarkable stuff. I mean, Tony Perkins coming over from the University of Iowa. I am an Iowa fan. I watched him for 4 years. He's a guy that brings great intensity, great defense. He's got active hands, willing and able passer. He's not the most consistent scorer. He's the kind of guy where he'd drive you crazy as an Iowa fan, where he'd have 25 one night and be 12 of 14 from the field, and then the next night he'd be 2 for 14. It just never made any sense. But he doesn't have to be the number 1 or 2 or even the number 3 scoring option on this team. Tamar Bates has really, I think, taken on his role and accepted what his responsibility is for this Mizzou team, and he's thrived because of it. Same with Anthony Robinson. This team can score in so many different ways. I mean, they're an incredibly deep roster. I mean, when you've got guys like Aiden Shaw and T.O. Barrett that were consensus 4-star recruits coming out of high school that are barely playing, if not playing at all in these games, you're doing something right. And Dennis Gates, I mean, in my view, he's the SEC Coach of the Year this year, if not potentially the National Coach of the Year this year, for what he's been able to do for a team that did not win a single game in the SEC last year to you're one game away from having at least a 500 record in the SEC. I mean, maybe above. They'll finish well above 500 in the SEC.
When they're playing in Nashville for the SEC tournament, they've got a chance. I mean, that's going to be an unbelievable conference tournament. It's the best conference in the country, but they got a chance to win that and improve their seeding from there. I mean, that's how good they are. Now, it's the NCAA tournament, so when we get there in a month or less than a month and matchups and all that, like, am I saying that there's no chance they can get upset? Of course not. Like, this is the NCAA tournament, and upsets happen, and, I'm sure, if you're an MU fan, I don't have to tell you the history there and everything like that of being a top seed. But they look a lot like an 08-09 team that made it to the Elite Eight. That's what the Missouri Tigers look like right now, and we'll see the draw and all that. The way it's trending now, like, they're going to be probably playing close to home. They're probably going to be playing in Wichita, which I think will be the closest site that they could play in, if I'm not mistaken, for the NCAA tournament pods and everything like that. So they should have that in their back pocket as well. That last night, I still think, I know they had beaten Florida on the road and things like that, and so you'll say that was more impressive because it was in Gainesville. I understand this was at home, but to do that to Alabama's now dropped 2 in a row, but they were to Auburn and Missouri. They're not bad losses or anything like that. But the offensive output was just ridiculous last night. But I think the bar absolutely is raised. And this is how college basketball works. Like, yes, going into the season, you would have just taken an NCAA tournament berth, I'm sure, if you're a Missouri Tiger fan. Now, no, you get greedy. This is what you do. The bar absolutely has been raised when you're winning. This is their 3rd top 5 win of the year, too.
Yeah.
You get 3 top 5 wins, you feel like you can beat anybody in the country. When your offense is that good, you really can beat anybody in the country. And so that was ultra impressive from Dennis Gates and the Missouri Tigers. Coming up here in the next couple weeks, we'll see the latest bracketology stuff and where the path could actually be. Here in 10 minutes, though, on Cody and Gold, we'll get to the NFL. Adam Schefter was talking about the NFL storylines and some of the biggest storylines, not just in Kansas City, but in the NFL. I thought it was interesting, and it got me thinking about what my number one storyline as well. We'll do that in just a bit. But spring training is underway, and there was a pretty funny story. Michael Massey, who we've had on the show before, of course, and he was talking about a time in which George Brett maybe was critical of his performance. There's more details to the story, and Cody was texting with him too, but that he can't share publicly. But this is what Michael Massey was saying. It's a hilarious story about George Brett and then Michael Massey's dad.
I have a text from a number I don't recognize, and the first sentence is, "Hey, this is George Brett." First thing I do actually is I take the message and I send it to my family group chat. I'm like, guys, George Brett is texting me about how bad I'm playing. Like, this is sick. I get a call from our travel coordinator. Phone's ringing. I'm like, great. I'm getting sent down. I'm hitting 1:30. He's like, "Hey man, I'm so sorry about what happened." I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I saw what George sent you, and he got after you pretty good. He's like, I even saw that he said you should should be in AAA the way you're playing right now. Actually, it was AA. My dad called George Brett on the phone and basically told him he was going to fight him the next time he saw him. And so it's a really interesting thing because George and I are unbelievable friends now. I love George, and I've gotten to know him really well, but it is an interesting story how we met.
Massey's dad was ready to fight George Brett. He was ready to fight George Brett over a text. It's unbelievable story, and that's hilarious. And again, I think there's some more details specifically on the conversation, which is great. But one, it just shows like no matter who you're dealing with, like you're going to be protective of your of your kids or your son or in this case or whatever it is. But considering George Brett's involved in the conversation, just imagining if you're Michael Massey. And your dad's mad. George Brett is texting you about how poor you're playing, and your dad's getting involved in wanting to fight George Brett. That's an all-timer.
Should Michael recommend that his dad get a hold of Greg Nettles just for point of reference, maybe some tips in regards to potentially getting into a tete-a-tete with George Brett? Yeah, I mean, give the guy some credit. Give him some applause for being defending his child, but to try to argue baseball topics with George Brett, I know that Michael's dad played baseball, I think at like Illinois, played in the 80s or something, played for the Fighting Illini, but this is George Brett we're talking about still. I mean, was it a little bit harsh? Yeah, probably. And Massey has proven to be a very, very serviceable player for the Royals. I think he was excellent last year, but it's an interesting story, something Michael Massey will remember forever, I'm sure.
Yeah, there was it's on if you want. There's the full podcast episode. It was an Apple Podcast episode. There's also a YouTube video. If you literally the video on YouTube is titled that time Michael Massey's dad threatened George Brett. The fact that like that the fact that title even exists for a video is all time if you're Michael Massey. And again, George Brett, it sounds like, was obviously cool about the whole thing as well. And then, as you heard from Massey, like now him and George Brett are fairly close and everything. I don't remember the exact timeline of where it was at. And the other funny thing is Michael Massey, he's told us, we've had him on the show, like his dad played baseball too. Mm-hmm. So it's not like his dad's coming from a place of not like, just not knowing anything about baseball or anything like that. His dad played for Illinois, I think.
I think it's funny that it's not like he just called him, to rip him a new one essentially and, go off on him for texting Michael that, but to basically say, hey man, I'm down to fight you. When is this happening? Where and when? If you don't stop, I'm gonna have to throw some hands over this.
Yeah, his hands are rated E for everyone.
That's right.
You can go to the Odyssey app too, the Foul Territory podcast. If you just search for that, you'll find it on the Odyssey app. It's titled Michael Massey's Crazy George Brett Story. And that was a story he recounted. He also talked about, of course, he's a huge Chicago fan. So he talked about the 2005 White Sox team. And you guys know, if you've listened at all when Massey's come on the show, he's a huge Chicago Bears fan too, a huge NFL fan. So maybe we'll have to try to get Massey on the show from spring training, from Surprise, and follow up with some more questions about how that whole thing actually went as well. All right, coming up next, though, let's go ahead and get into the NFL a little bit. Adam Schefter was talking about some of the top storylines. One of them I agree with, but I have another one to throw out your way as well. That's coming up next here on Cody and Gold.
This is Cody and Gold on your new home for Royals baseball. 96.5 The Fan. Brought to you by Heartland Men's Health, the leader in men's sexual health. Thousands of men have been successfully treated for low T, ED, and more, all with discretion and compassion. Make your appointment at heartlandmenshealth.com.
Folks, it's time to rev up your engines and get ready for a wild ride for Ford Truck Month. And who better to bring you all the excitement than my favorite Ford dealer in Kansas City, Rob Seid of Rob Seid Ford in South Kansas City. Hey, Rob, what's going on?
Hey, Kevin, there are a lot of F-150s out there, but you're not going to find a better deal than Rob Seid Ford's $15,500 off brand new F-150s. That's right, $15,500 off. These savings only happen during Truck Month at Rob Seid Ford, so now is not the time to wait.
Rob Seid Ford is on fire.
Best price and best inventory at Rob Seid Ford. So many F-150s in stock. Don't wait because they won't last long. Biggest savings, best trade-in offers, all part of the Kevin Harlan VIP experience at Rob Seid Ford.
And I appreciate that. Like I've said before, Bobby, nothing compares to the quality and the professionalism at Rob Sight Ford.
Rob Sight Ford, 135th and State Line, ROBSIGHT.com.
Hey, it's Rex here with RexBuysKC.com, your local KC home buyer. If you own a property in the Kansas City or surrounding area and want to sell it fast and at a fair price, write this number down, 816-330-6000. I'm a private real estate investor, not some hedge fund or large national chain. My family and I live right here in KC. I can pay cash and close on your timeline, even in as little as 3 days. Here at RexBuysKC.com, we're improving Kansas City one house at a time. I buy inherited houses, vacant houses, foreclosure houses, behind in payment houses, my tenant won't pay the rent houses, and properties that need complete rehabs. Do you own a house that's trashed and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great. If you own a house and want to sell it fast, call me at this number, 816-330-6000. That's 816-330-6000, or go to RexBuysKC.com. That's RexBuysKC.com, and I look forward to working with you.
Taxes was not knowing your full financial picture. Now Taxes is getting and maximizing your refund all in one place. Credit Karma, where a TurboTax expert can do your taxes for you. They'll get you the most money back, guaranteed. Then you can do more with all that money, all in Credit Karma. Now this is Taxes. Intuit Credit Karma with TurboTax. Get started today. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Experts only available with TurboTax Live.
Here is your Game of the Week, presented by Hyundai. The Saturday slate of games in college basketball is stacked with some great ranked matchups, one of which being the number 10 team in the country heading into Houston for what we can only imagine will be a fast-paced competition. The entire starting lineup for State has been recording double-digit points per game, while Houston's defense is one of the best in the country. Who will come out on top? Don't let the urge to sing along to that catchy tune distract you from that truck drifting toward your lane or that lane-splitting biker creeping up beside you. Fortunately, every Hyundai offers advanced safety features that can alert you to potential dangers around you, and Hyundai has over 120 IIHS top safety awards since 2006. Because Hyundai is always working to ensure the road doesn't get you, Hyundai vehicles have won over 120 IIHS top safety awards from 2006 to 2024. We put your safety first and everything else second. Learn more at HyundaiUSA.com.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Huge news. Right now at Wendy's, you can get a Son of Baconator for just $3. I don't think you understand this situation. The Son of Baconator is only $3 for a limited time. You know, smoked bacon, rich melted cheese. That Son of Baconator is only $3. Thank you to whoever wished upon that star. For bacon that just won't quit, gotta be Wendy's.
U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska and Hawaii, not valid on a combo or on third-party delivery platforms.
I had the worst dream last night. You were in a car crash, and the kids and I were on our own. We had to move out of the house because I couldn't afford it anymore.
That's awful, hon.
My brother was saying he got life insurance from Ethos. With Ethos, it only took 10 minutes, and he got $2 million in coverage for around $2 a day. It's all online. No medical exam. He just answered a few health questions right from his house.
Ethos, here we come.
Visit GetEthos.com. That's GetEthos.com. Sample rate is a 10-year term life policy for 35-year-old healthy, non-smoking male. Billed monthly.
Order for Jennifer C.
Is this my double shot, double cream, double froth, double pump, double whip, double sleeve?
Yeah. Can you handle that much caffeine?
Did you know Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Oh, really? That's great.
Seriously, did you know Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Yeah, you just said that.
Did you say I just said that?
Yeah, I'm cutting you off.
I can't have any more? Why not?
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
All right, everybody, it's here. The March to Spring Training and Opening Day is officially upon us. Hey, I'm Rob Bradford from Baseball Isn't Boring, and we'll have you covered every single day with instant reactions to late-breaking signings, determining which players are, yes, truly in the best shape of their lives, and behind-the-scenes story from all the excitement and intrigue that spring training brings. Follow Baseball Isn't Boring in the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
The technicians you can trust with your house keys. Anthony Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electric.
You're listening to 96.5 The Fan from the Mission Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling Studios.
All right, just getting started here on a Thursday. It's Cody and Gold. Alex Gold, Drew Nixon with you. Logan Weber, he's filling in for Cody today. Cody will be back tomorrow. Reminder, coming up tonight, Hot Stove Show with Vern. He's going to have Chris Bubich, Ben Kudrna, and Annie Rogers on the show. 6 o'clock here on 96.5 The Fan. And then Logan will be on with After Hours 7 to 9 this evening. So we get to know Logan a little bit. You don't have to give the full story or whatever. Share whatever you want to share, but you're refreshing your email throughout the entire show today.
Yeah, I am. My wife and I are buying a house.
There you go. Congrats, man.
Thank you very much. It's our first home down in the Grain Valley area, which is like south of Blue Springs here in the metro. We're very, very excited about it, but right now we're like in the process of awaiting escrow.
Okay.
Like, so our I don't know what you want to call it. Our
mortgage broker or something,
broker, whatever you want to call it, right? Our lending agent. She has let us know that we could potentially be entering escrow here in the next day or two. So I'm constantly refreshing my email and looking at my text and my phone to see if I'm getting a text message from my wife that is confirming one way or the other if we've entered escrow or not, because we're pretty thrilled about it. You know, I've lived in some sort of communal space since I was 18 and went to college for the first time, right? It was a dorm, and then I was living in a house with 3 other guys that I was friends with in college, and then I lived in an apartment complex, and I've lived in apartments since then down in the Springfield market where my wife and I were previously. So to like have our first space for ourselves, like I own this, right? Like this is everything we put into it is coming back to us in some way, shape, or form versus renting a property, which kind of feels like you're just throwing money away.
Totally.
And there's a little bit of a pride in that, you know, oh, the toilet stopped working. Well, it's my toilet, so I have to replace it, right? Or the furnace went out, which is a giant pain, but there's also a little bit of a sense of pride with that as well.
Well, congrats. Hopefully everything goes well. But yeah, I totally understand. I'd be refreshing the email and checking my phone constantly as well. You guys can text us on the Jay Southlands Host Service text line 913-586-7965. Let's talk a little NFL though, because Adam Schefter was going through his offseason storylines, and he said the biggest NFL storyline this offseason is Matthew Stafford's impact on therefore where Aaron Rodgers is going to go. And if you guys aren't familiar, there's rumors out there that Matthew Stafford maybe could get moved out of L.A., and then is he going to the Giants? Are the Steelers in play? Where could Matthew Stafford end up? And that will have a trickle-down effect, because if Matthew Stafford doesn't move, well, then, of course, there's another job or two maybe out there for someone like Aaron Rodgers. If Stafford gets traded, it takes a destination. I don't think Sean McVay is going to bring in Aaron Rodgers, so it takes a destination away. I agree with that being one of the bigger storylines. I mean, Matthew Stafford, if we're talking about for what would be the third offseason in the last 5+ years where a Super Bowl winning quarterback would be on the move. Of course, Russell Wilson and then Aaron Rodgers himself. It hasn't worked out with the initial trade. I'll say that for Matthew Stafford. Like, hey, man, I don't think he has a no-trade clause. I'm not sure how that works with him. I can't remember in his contract. But Aaron Rodgers wanted out. It was a disaster after leaving Green Bay. Russell Wilson wanted out of Seattle or didn't want out. They wanted him out. He goes to Denver. It was a disaster. And then he was okay this year in Pittsburgh. So typically the track record, other than Tom Brady leaving for Tampa, it hasn't really turned out all that well for the guys that's chosen to leave. There's always an outlier. You know, the Colts forced Peyton Manning out. He didn't want to leave, and we all know he wins the ring there in Denver. So I was thinking, like, what's our and my biggest NFL storyline? That one's a huge one. I'm actually most fascinated by what happens in Cincinnati, and not just because we give Drew a hard time about the Bengals and everything as much as we can, but truly there's a major impact on the rest of the AFC and the rest of the NFL. Do they or do they not pay both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins? If they do, okay, not a whole lot changes. They keep that core together, but what happens defensively? If they do not bring back T. Higgins, where does he end up? Does he stay in the AFC? Does he go to the NFC? I think Jamar Chase is getting paid. So really we're talking about T. Higgins here. But what do they do there could have a huge trickle-down effect. As someone that's in the AFC, someone that recognizes they have one of the top quarterbacks in football, what they do this offseason with T. Higgins, I think, is a huge storyline.
Oh, no question, because if you re-sign T. Higgins, because you're right, they are going to pay Jamar Chase. They have to. I mean, he just put up the receiving triple crown. He's still in his mid-20s. He may not have even reached the peak of his powers yet. You have to keep him around. The relationship he has with Joe Burrow, which is important because Jamar Chase does have a tendency to kind of go off the handle sometimes, and Burrow appears to be maybe the only guy that can rein him in at times. Didn't do enough of that against the Chiefs this past season, but if you pay T. Higgins, that offense and that passing game is solidified for the very, very distant future. But if you do that, the defense becomes an even bigger question mark because Trey Hendrickson needs to get paid this offseason as well. He just came off a year where he was an All-Pro, a Defensive Player of the Year finalist, and he led the NFL in sacks. He's going to earn a pretty penny. He's going to become a top 5 highest paid defensive end in the National Football League. Do you try to pay him too? So now you're paying Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Trey Hendrickson all in the same offseason, all of which are going to be making $20+ million per year on top of what Burrow's making. You're tying up roughly 50 to 60% of your total salary in those 4 guys. And rightfully so, because they're 4 incredibly talented
players. But the rest
players.
of your defense, you're going to be having the same issue,
Exactly.
I think. I know Drew and I disagree on this, but because it's the lack of trust maybe in the draft picks and everything. I just would rather use my resources to bump up that defense a little bit because, look, Burrow and Jamar Chase with Chase Brown, the running back, that should be good enough to still have a top-tier offense, whether or not you bring back T. Higgins or not. I would work on a deal with Hendrickson because of the defensive aspect, but I feel like you need to bolster that defense. I don't want to turn this into a huge Cincinnati topic necessarily, but just I think that is a huge storyline in the NFL, along with Matthew Stafford. What's another one for you guys and the text line as well?
Yeah, one that fascinates me. What happens in San Francisco this offseason? And I can't really just point to one thing with the San Francisco 49ers. This is a team 2 seasons ago was in the Super Bowl and was favored by many in that Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs, and they fell short. This offseason, you've got major decisions to make. What happens with Deebo Samuel? It feels very similar to what happened with Brandon Ayuk last offseason. Ayuk was talking, hey, I want to get paid. If you're not going to pay me, trade me, and then they paid him. Deebo Samuel says he wants out. Until he looks around at some of the potential suitors for him, and then maybe he stays around, or maybe the Niners don't get back what they want as a return on investment for Deebo Samuel. What do you do with Brock Purdy? Because I think he has warranted an extension at this point in his career. But there are those people, and I'm sure those people exist within the Niners organization, that are questioning, okay, just how valuable is he, though? Because this team has been so incredibly talented. The pieces around him have risen his game to such a level that there may be those people in the organization that question, okay, well, could this team be great if they have any quarterback at their disposal?
And Kyle Shanahan's the one coach that has shown, whether it's Jimmy Garoppolo and now with Brock Purdy, to be able to do that, to elevate quarterback play. I think a scenario that I would have been really interested in San Francisco, if Sam Darnold didn't have the bad playoff performance, Sam Darnold was in San Francisco a year ago, is there was part of me that would say, man, don't pay Brock Purdy. Maybe you tag and trade him or something, but don't pay him. And then you just bring in Sam Darnold and you pay him 70% of the cost of, or maybe less than that, honestly, of Brock Purdy, and you roll with that, and then you can fix other areas in the roster. I don't think that's what they're going to do. I'd be very intrigued by that still even today if I were the 49ers. But typically we know how this goes. Like, when's the last time a franchise, honestly, has had a quarterback that a year ago was playing at an MVP level? I understand the name Brock Purdy doesn't excite people, but he was a year ago, not this year, but a year ago playing at a very high level, to your point about being in the Super Bowl, Logan. And those guys usually don't let those guys walk. They don't usually trade those guys. I mean, Tua got paid because he was next man up, basically. And it's not that Tua's not provided them some opportunities to have success. He has. We saw what they were like without him this year at times. So I still think Brock Purdy gets paid, but I would understand, and I would be exploring how much faith do you have in Shanahan with Sam Darnold, and if you think the Vikings are not tagging him too. That's the other thing. You don't know if he's available.
And Aaron Rodgers is possibly an option, right? I think it's way out there, and I would be shocked by it. But if you don't want to pay Purdy, Shanahan and
That's where he's from.
I mean,
Sure,
it's a
he's
fair
from
point.
He's from
but
that part.
why would you sacrifice a 26, 27-year-old quarterback who could be your very, very distant future for a guy who might be a 1 or 2 year stopgap? And we're not sure he has it anymore.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think he has it anymore. At least with Sam Darnold, if it works out, you got him for many, many years. Rodgers, he can be great for 1 year. I don't think great is left in the tank for him. But if you think that it's still a 1 year, 2 year thing, then you got to go draft a quarterback again. The only way I'm not signing Purdy, honestly, is if I think I can get Sam Darnold or somebody like that.
I think another one to watch isn't necessarily the team, but it's what the Cowboys do with Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
Just because the conversation is like the culture reset, and Micah Parsons is doing a lot of talking on his podcast and all these other things, which obviously he has the right to do so. But as we know with the Cowboys, it tends to look like a little circus at times with Jerry and everything, and all the stuff that happens off the field more than it even does on. But Micah Parsons is in his prime, or in a spot kind of like what he hasn't forced a trade, because I think he believes that the Cowboys can win still. Like, there's a lot of talent on the roster. They just have to stay healthy and kind of put it all together. But you got a new head coach in there. Is this one of those things that you just say, you know what, we're going to get what we can from Micah Parsons because we can still get a lot right now and make the team as a unit collectively maybe a little bit better in the long run, instead of just keeping him? Or, and also, if they do decide to trade him, I mean, who is willing to give up whatever is needed to get Micah Parsons, and what would it cost to get him?
The same teams that would be in the mix for Myles Garrett, right? I mean, I think it'd be very similar, a lot, right? The asking price would be a lot, but what you said about take the long-term view for the Cowboys, the problem is that's not Jerry Jones. Like,
oh yeah, right.
That's just not how he operates, especially now at his age too. Like he thinks every year they can win the Super Bowl.
Which is why he probably won't get traded.
Yeah, and what they'll do is they'll wait to the very last minute, like they did with CeeDee Lamb, and they'll end up in Dak Prescott, and they'll end up paying way more because they'll wait and they'll wait and they'll wait, and they end up paying. This is what happens every single time with a star player, I feel like, in Dallas, is under Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones. They act like they're going to play hardball, and then ultimately, like a week before the season, they get the deal done anyway, and they end up, I wouldn't call it overpaying, they just pay more than they would have if they would have got the deal done 3 months earlier. So, yeah, Micah Parsons, I don't think as a player you
not
trade
a huge one,
if
but
you're
I think
in Dallas
it's a storyline
right now.
for sure.
Yeah, like Myles Garrett, I get why he wants out, and if I'm the Browns, I would trade him. You're not going anywhere. The Cowboys, I understand we can make the jokes and all that, but like to your point about the roster, you don't trade away a player like Micah Parsons on the Dallas Cowboys.
Not defensively. I mean, he's the stalwart of that unit, right? And that unit took a step back this last year, but Parsons was still very, very effective in his role. You lost Dak Prescott, and it tanked your team's chances, right? I don't think Dak Prescott is the guy that can bring you to a Super Bowl. I've never thought that, but he is a guy that puts you in as a playoff team. And with him back next year, that NFC East is going to be fascinating to watch with the Eagles, with the Commanders, and now with the Dallas Cowboys, although I think the Cowboys are the third team in that trio. You have to keep a guy like Micah Parsons around. If we've learned anything, and I say the same thing in regards to Trey Hendrickson with the Cincinnati Bengals, edge rushers in the National Football League today are as important a position as you're going to find in the NFL, maybe outside of the quarterback position, or left tackle if you want to throw that into the ring. But that's because they have to block edge rushers. They are such a massive part of a team's defensive game plan week after week, and there aren't many, if any, that are as consistent on a down-by-down basis and as great on a down-by-down basis as Micah Parsons is. And if they are better than him, in your opinion, my assumption is that they're a few years older, a la Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. The future of that position resides in a guy like Micah Parsons, and I think it would be foolish if the Cowboys were to do something other than extend him for the long period.
Yeah, Brian Schottenheimer, of course, the first-time head coach now with the Dallas Cowboys as well. Somebody on the text line, we were going through storylines because Adam Schefter once again said that Matthew Stafford, where he ends up, is his number one offseason storyline. A lot of people are saying Aaron Rodgers, and that goes back. That's the link with the Stafford thing. Does that have a trickle-down effect? But overall, it's the second time in the last 3 years where Aaron Rodgers' offseason destination is somewhat of a storyline. I mean, I guess there's also a scenario he retires, just like it was before. I don't know if he goes on another ayahuasca trip and decides where to end up when this is all said and done. Did you watch the Netflix doc?
No.
I watched 1.5 episodes, and then I was done.
I want to watch it. I haven't gotten to it yet.
1.5 episodes, and then I was done.
Because I think he also talks about his family a lot in there as well, with the whole his brother Jordan going on The Bachelor or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's had interesting, like just last 20 years of headlines where it's him being the quarterback as well as the family stuff off the field, a lot of people, the whole he doesn't have a relationship with his family and everything like that. It's very interesting. I need to watch.
Again, the Steelers, one of the favorite offshore oddwise landing spots for Aaron Rodgers. We'll get back to the NFL in 15 minutes, including an update on Travis Kelce and what his decision could be. Diana Rossini had an update on that. We'll give our thoughts and tell you what that is here in about 15 minutes or so. The other news in the NFL, though, was around yesterday afternoon. The salary cap, we all knew it was going to go up. That's not new. As long as it's not a pandemic year, the cap goes up every year. That's how this thing works. When they add more international games, when they have new TV deals with Netflix, et cetera, more money coming in, obviously the cap goes up. Here's the latest figure. The NFL informed teams 2025 per team salary cap is going to be in a range of $277.5 million, potentially as high as $281.5 million. That is up from last year considerably. $255.5 million is where it was. That means over the last 2 years, it could be a $53 million increase. Great for the players. Great for the players. The one thing is funny always with this storyline every offseason. It's like, well, this is great news, Logan, for the Chiefs. This is unbelievable. Now they got so much more money. As if the 31 other teams also aren't getting a salary cap increase. Like, yes, it is a good thing for the players. Great. If you're Trey Smith, it's great news. Great timing for you. The cap keeps going up. Great news for players in the league. They should continue to have, if the revenues are up, of course, the players should benefit as well. Makes a whole lot of sense. That's how this whole thing works. Is it nice that the Chiefs are going to have some more cap space? Sure. But a lot of this, they project out. Like this, I bet you Brett Veach, they were not stunned with the salary cap going up. If anything, maybe it went up a few more dollars than they thought, but they're never caught off guard. They get paid to be able to project years in advance. They already have projections, of course, for 2027 and 2028 of where they're going to be at. That's how the whole thing works. So, yes, it's good the salary cap's going up. It means that these random national folks that want to act like the Chiefs, oh my gosh, they're in cap hell, Logan. They have nowhere to go. They have nowhere to spend this money. Like, that stuff is ridiculous. That's not true. But at the same time, like, the cap goes up for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, yes, the Chiefs now have an extra potential, $22 to $26 million to play with. But they're still the number 24 team in the National Football League in total salary cap space. Like, that has not changed because everybody's getting the same amount of money. And I think it goes to show you that the NFL is not going anywhere. This is the most popular sport in the United States today, and it's only seemingly getting bigger, right? Hence the reason why they're going to Brazil and Germany and Spain and Ireland and now they're going to Australia for the first time. That is where this league is headed. Is it's headed to an international stage, and you're right. Yes, it gives the Chiefs a little bit more money to potentially go and re-sign Trey Smith in the long term or re-sign Nick Bolton in the long term. But it also means that other NFL teams now have more money to outbid you if they feel like it. I mean, the Raiders now have like over $150 million in cap space right now. Like it's absolutely insane how much money they have at their disposal. The Patriots are in a similar situation. The Chargers are in a great spot, and they're going to be in a better spot probably when they cut Joey Bosa, which I think is a very likely scenario to happen this offseason. So, yeah, and we all know, right, there is something to it. Somebody in the text line just mentioned, more money for Veach means more than with other owners or front office people. Yeah, he's a guru when it comes to that sort of stuff. But they all work in the same realm. And what Veach can do with it, how he can stretch that money, is something that is, I think, envied by the rest of the league. But stretching that money is not going to help you keep Trey Smith and Nick Bolton around. Those are pretty cut and dry scenarios. And other teams around the league are going to be willing, in my view, to pay a little bit more than I think the Chiefs are going to be willing to pay Trey Smith. And I think you're in it's a situation where all this money is well and good, and it's going to help you find guys to fill roster spots. It's going to be able to maybe you can go sign a left tackle now if you feel like it. But in regards to re-signing Trey Smith, I don't think it moves the needle.
Well, just the salaries we're about to see in these free agent contracts, whether it's a wide receiver or anybody else, and whether they sign with Kansas City, on day one of free agency, when it officially opens up, right, there's the legal tampering window and all that, but when it officially opens up and when you see like X player gets deal and you're like, oh my God, it's a terrible deal, it's a ton of money. Just remember that the salary cap went up $53 million over the last 2 years. So I remember this. The prime example of this it's probably been 3 years now at this point. Remember when Christian Kirk signed with the Jags?
Yeah. And
he had a good first year. He didn't. And this past year, I think he got hurt, if I'm not mistaken, or something. But everybody was like, "What the hell are the Jags doing?" And I'm not saying that they're well run necessarily. They finally got rid of Trent Baalke. But the point was, we were all stunned with the dollar amount. So don't be surprised if we're stunned by dollar amounts guys are getting this offseason. But that's the way this is going to continue to go. The Chiefs, though, will have the cap space to accomplish what they want to accomplish. It not just because the cap goes up, but that cap dollar amount that you reference also is before there might be any restructures. And we know Mahomes has been willing to do that time and time again. Remember, they're still getting their money, can convert stuff to a signing bonus or whatever. And so that goes on the owner, right? Whether or not the owner cash flow wise is willing to do that kind of stuff, because it requires you being, flush with cash by NFL standards. I understand you're like, well, all the NFL owners are. But some are wealthier than others. And that's the issue that Mark Davis has run into out in Las Vegas. The big reason why he took on sold ownership shares to Tom Brady and company.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. And we know Mahomes has showed a willingness to do that. The ownership has shown a willingness to do that. I think that for the sake of the organization, you should do that, because by converting money or pushing money back towards the end of the contract, you can continue to try to win and be competitive with Mahomes at the helm, right? I mean, as of now, his cap hit is somewhere in the avenue of $65 to $70 million next year, all told. That's a lot. And there's these weird, intricate ways. And I know somebody last night when I was hosting After Hours said something about deferred money. The NFL doesn't really do deferred money in the sense that like Major League Baseball does.
You void years, but you can.
Yes. And the all in all, you can defer the money, but it has to be paid out over the life of the contract. You can't pay it out in 2035 when Mahomes' contract is 4 or 5 years, over with at that point. It has to be paid out by 2031, I believe, when he signed that 10-year extension. All of that $500 has got to be paid out by then. So, yeah, you can continue to push it back or push some of it back year after year after year. And then in 2030, 2031, we as Chiefs Kingdom need to just collectively understand, hey, we're not going to be very good. I don't know what the answer is, but we all know what Veach has been able to do and how he's been able to maneuver the cap year after year after year. I mean, goodness, nobody gets penalized for being over the NFL salary cap. If so, the Saints ownership would have had to sell the team 20 years ago, because they have been in cap purgatory for most of our lifetimes. So there are always ways to maneuver it, and I know Veach and company are the best in the league right now at finding those. And I'm very, very interested to see how they can make this work. Some have said that this is going to be a rebuilding year for Kansas City. We don't do rebuilding years with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback and Andy Reid as the head coach of this team. It's not going to be a rebuilding year. This team's going to win the AFC West again, and they're going to compete for a chance at a Super Bowl again.
They, again, have the second best odds to win the Super Bowl next year. But a lot of questions, though, to answer and holes to fill. But acting like they don't have the resource to accomplish what they want to accomplish, I think, would to your point there, would be foolish as well. Coming up in about 8 minutes, we'll get to the latest on Travis Kelce, his decision, perhaps leaning a certain direction based on some national reporting. We'll get to that in just a bit here on Cody and Gold. Alex Gold, Logan Weber, Drew Nixon with you on a Thursday. Real quick, I wanted to get an update on where things are trending for college football, because we all know the controversy by some during the college football playoff was like the seeding and how much of a mess it was, and why was a team, for example, like Boise State given a bye over a team from a Power 5 conference, basically, and why was the seeding set up? It created a pretty easy path for some teams compared to others, right? That was the narrative from the minute it came out. Well, there was a meeting yesterday in New Orleans. There was a joint meeting between the SEC commissioner, Greg Sankey, and then Tony Pettit, I think it is, or Petit, or whatever his name is, there for the Big Ten. He's their commissioner. And he said that those two agreed, to look at seeding changes. So you would have maybe in some view a more even seeding aspect, right? That the way teams are seeded in the 12-team college football playoff should change. Now, they're not the two that can make the decision, even though they're the biggest power brokers in college football at this point in time in the power conferences and everything. But remember, this has to be agreed upon by everybody. That's 10 commissioners and then Notre Dame, because we all know they're independent as well. The 4 highest ranked conference champions got the top 4 seeds this go around. It was basically the controversy of the entire thing for a lot of people. So I'm not anti-redoing the seeding. What I think is funny, though, is like, am I agreeing to it if I'm in the Mountain West? Because, again, it has to be unanimous Now you can try to put pressure on a conference or whatever, but this isn't just like the big boys get to decide. You do have to get the Mountain West, who is going to also turn into a different conference here very soon because Boise State and these other guys are leaving to go to the new Pac-12 again, not to confuse you at all. So I think most of the conferences are agreed to the seating changes, but if I'm a Boise State and I'm a Mountain West Conference or the new Pac-12, I'm saying, wait a second, why am I doing this? You're basically trying to make it so we're left out of the party here a little bit.
Yeah, the only people that seem to blatantly benefit from a decision to change the seating are the SEC, the Big Ten, and Notre Dame. I mean, right, Notre Dame had an opportunity. They could have been considered for a first-round bye, and they didn't because they're not in a conference. You can't be a power conference champion. You can't get a first-round bye. So obviously they are going to join the fold as part of that group that's going to be talking about changing these seedings. But if I'm the Mountain West, if I'm the American or Conference USA, if I'm the ACC or the Pac-12, why would you be in favor of changing the seeding? Because college football today, as we know it, is dominated by the two big conferences, the Big Ten and the SEC, right? A great deal of the talent resides in those two conferences. A great deal of the monetary rights reside in those two conferences. They are the most powerful and wealthy groups in the league. The Big Ten and the SEC are. What is the benefit for the Big 12 or the ACC to say, yeah, go ahead and change the seating so that we might lose the possibility of even getting a first-round bye in the first place? Because if that would have been the case this year, the ACC and the Big 12 would not have gotten a bye at all, right? I mean, the Big 12 ended up getting Arizona State. Without that ruling, they're barely inside the field. They're probably the number 12 team, and they've got to go play a 5 seed. And then you've got Texas and Penn State who are getting first-round buys.
Yeah, I think that the model, and Drew, we talked about this at the time back in December as well. Like with the SEC, they want to basically have the top 4 teams earn the top 4 seeds and first-round buys, regardless whether they're the conference champion. That's what the SEC like. That's what the SEC would like to have.
They want to try
happen.
to get the AQs for the Big Ten and the SEC.
The other way to solve this is just to expand the playoff again. Right, and go from 12 to 14. That solves some of this, but the problem is we know if it expands, if it gets to 14, well, the SEC and the Big Ten want to guarantee 3 or 4 spots each conference, and then really there's only 4 spots in that hypothetical up for grabs for everybody else.
And then you get to 14, and 14's so close to 16, right? Something's going to happen. The Big Ten and the SEC are going to get mad again. Oh, let's balloon it to 16. Okay, now we'll go to 20. It's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger.
If I were the Mountain West or any of the Group of 5 conferences or the Big 12, I'd want them to go to 16 straight away instead of 14. You might as well. It guarantees you 2 teams in there. You change up your conference championship game, which. That already is being. I don't know if it was the same meeting. I think some news came out of that meeting as well.
That can't happen until after 2026, I think.
Yes,
expansion
correct.
of it.
Yeah,
so
as far as seating can change as soon as possible.
If they all agree, it could change for next year.
It is interesting. If you went to straight seating like what they're proposing, Boise State would be the 8th. They would have hosted a game in Boise against Tennessee.
On the blue.
Not that they wouldn't have won. Not that they would have won the game, but that conceivably would have been cool. I don't mind the straight seating as much as. Because I get it kind of screws some teams out of it, but Boise State was good enough last year. They were already inside the top 10 anyways off of their regular ranking.
All right, coming up next, a little update on Travis Kelce. Which direction is he leaning toward in retirement conversation? That's coming up here on Cody and Gold.
This is Cody and Gold on your new home for K-State Athletics. 96.5, The Fan. Brought to you by Heartland Men's Health, the leader in men's sexual health. Thousands of men have been successfully treated for low T, ED, and more, all with discretion and compassion. Make your appointment at heartlandmenshealth.com.
Men, this is Jeff for Heartland Men's Health. The one you love is the light of your life. And if you're like most of us, you want to do whatever you can to nurture your relationship. But if you're suffering with erectile dysfunction, you know the impacts the condition is likely having on you and your partner. ED is a relationship destroyer. It can contribute to depression, distancing, conflicts, and even breakups and divorce. And what's so disturbing about this is that most men who suffer with ED can be successfully treated, but a lot of guys don't seek treatment when they should. At Heartland Men's Health, we have protocols that are effective in well over 90% of cases. In fact, if you're like most guys, you could be having great sex within a day or 2 of your first appointment, and maybe find you're performing like you haven't in a long time. So call Heartland Men's Health today. Your initial visit is only $99 and includes blood work, a medical consult, and if medically advised, a test dose. And if that test dose doesn't work in the office, your visit is free. Call 844-447-6600 or go to heartlandmenshealth.com. We have 3 offices, Overland Park, Independence, and North Kansas City.
Winter is more than half over, and things are looking up. But before we start thinking about spring lawn care, I'd like to ask you to look up at your trees. This is Larry Ryan at Ryan Lawn and Tree. And right now, before the leaves fill in, is a great time to find and take care of old storm damage, remove dead branches, and carefully prune trees for better growth and storm resilience. Now is also when you can save 15% with our winter rates. Our team of master pruners and certified arborists is unmatched in both skill and care. And at Ryan Lawn and Tree, they're also employee owners. You're not just a customer, you're their customer. I think you'll be impressed with the difference that makes. So will your valuable trees. Take advantage of our winter rates and enjoy 15% off all tree services when you book before March 1st. Call today or book online at ryanlawn.com/tree.
What is GMTVCC? It's a mouthful, but translation for GMTVCC.com is Give Me the VIN Classic and Collector Cars. It's a brand new buying division of Give Me the VIN, but it's for classic and collector cars. Experienced pro buyers will appraise an offer on your 1970 Hemi Cuda or 1988 Fox Body Mustang or your granddad's old 1985 square body Chevy truck. GMTVCC.com is where you go to get real money for classic and collector cars to get paid now. That's GMTVCC.com, brought to you by Give Me the VIN.
Hey, it's Cody and Gold once again, telling you about our friends over at Centric, and we've all been dealing with this brutal weather in Kansas City. Maybe you work outside, and look, you've just had enough. Well, you can start a brand new career with our friends over at Centric, because they allow you to advance your career on your time with their flexible schedules.
You choose your curriculum, go with that new career path, and stop worrying about what the weather will do for you. Call our guy, Russ Mondry. He's been with Centric for 16 years and will be with you to guide you every step of the way. Go to Centric.com now.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Dell Technologies is celebrating with anniversary savings on their most popular tech. For a limited time only, save on select next-gen PCs like the XPS 16, powered by Intel Core Ultra processors and more. Plus, curate your dream setup with great deals on select monitors, mice, and more must-have electronics and accessories. When you shop online at Dell.com/deals, you'll have access to leading-edge technology to match your forward-thinking spirit and free shipping on everything. Again, that's Dell.com/deals.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Huge news. Right now at Wendy's, you can get a Son of Baconator for just $3. I don't think you understand this situation. The Son of Baconator is only $3 for a limited time. You know, smoked bacon, rich melted cheese. That Son of Baconator is only $3. Thank you to whoever wished upon that star. For bacon that just won't quit, gotta be Wendy's.
U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska and Hawaii, not valid on a combo or in third-party delivery platforms.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch all the shows from your phone, desktop, or tablet. Your home for Kansas City sports. 96.5 The Fan, KFNC FM and AM, HD1 and HD2 Kansas City, an Odyssey sports station.
All right, 11 o'clock hour here on Cody and Gold. Alex Gold, Drew Nixon producing the show. Logan Weber with me. He's filling in for Cody today. Cody on a snow day. He'll be back tomorrow. We'll get to the trash of the day in about 15 minutes. It relates to our whole fraud investigation yesterday that we had on the show. I filled in Logan the details, so he knows what I'm talking about. If you guys were listening to the 1 o'clock hour at any point yesterday, you probably have a good idea. Talking about, Troy, yes, or Steve Bob, as we called him earlier in the show, but Troy and the fraud. The trash of the day relates to that again. It ties back in, I promise you. I think Logan's he's all about the story now too, as well. I gave you the insight.
It's a wild one. The man is a journeyman, a modern day Forrest Gump, if you will.
That's right. That's exactly right. You guys can text in on the Jay Southland Tow Service text line 913-586-7965. So I'm sure we'll get other updates along the way until the middle of March, where we should know about Travis Kelce's future. But this is the first update we've really gotten, other from hearing from Kelce on New Heights podcast, where he was acknowledging that he's thinking through everything and needs some time. Diana Rossini was on the Rich Eisen show yesterday. Here's what she had to say about what she's hearing about Travis Kelce, maybe leaning in a certain direction.
I can tell you from just having a few conversations with people around the league over the last few days, there's definitely a sense that Travis is going to try to play more. I haven't heard anyone say, he's really struggling with what he wants to do. It's definitely leaning more towards that. That can, of course, change. This is going to be his decision only. But for this Chiefs operation looking to move forward here, I think they feel pretty good that Travis has got a little bit more left in him.
That's Diana Rossini, well-connected, well-respected, of course, in the NFL world. That's the first really report we've had since that video of anybody maybe, I'm not saying she talked to Kelce himself, but talked to people maybe around him or within the Chiefs organization and their belief. We said at the time of Kelce's comments, he clearly is considering retirement, obviously. But as time goes on and we get closer to the middle of March, I think the longer it goes on and we don't hear that he's made a decision to retire, of course, the better it gets. Like, you get out of -5-degree Kansas City for a little bit. You go to a beach somewhere. You enjoy the warm weather. Your body hopefully starting to feel a bit better. The sting of the loss, I'm not saying it ever goes away, but hopefully it lessens a little bit. And then you say, man, I don't want to go out that way. I want to be with my guys, all this kind of stuff. Hearing that, and then as time goes on, I think we'll end up seeing Travis Kelce come back. But that was an update from Diana Rossini on Travis Kelce and maybe what he's thinking at this time.
Yeah, I mean, it's none of us can get inside the mind of a player like Travis, but, you can look back at previous instances of him talking about his career and, when he wants to get out of the sport. We know that he's got a plan once his time is done. That has become very, very obvious. He's become a very popular man in television and things nowadays, but Travis has always talked like a guy who was, and he said it. I mean, he has said verbatim that he's ready to play the game of football until the wheels fall off. I mean, that is the way that he's described it. This season did not look like a man who had the wheels falling off, right? Is he the same player he was 5 years ago? No, he's a little bit slower. He's a little bit heavier, right? He's maybe a little bit less prepared for the bumps and bruises and the knocks that come with playing in the National Football League. But he's certainly still a very serviceable player in the National Football League. I think he's still a top 10 tight end in this league. Is he the best tight end in football? Maybe not anymore, but that's not to say that he still can't play this game and play it at a very high level. I think, he was incredible when he needed to be, and when he wasn't asked to be, I think that was a benefit to him. The Chiefs shouldn't look at him as the number one weapon on this offense anymore, and he shouldn't look at himself as the number one weapon anymore. If he can come to grips with that, then he should have no problem coming out next year and being incredibly successful again.
I think any great athlete, one of the challenges, of course, recognizing that, hey, you're no longer the exact same player that you once were and everything, and that's true. But I also think last year he already expected that to be the case, and then Rashee Rice gets hurt, and all of a sudden he's forced to be the number one option in the offense again. And that's why the targets were way up. I actually think fairly early on, we've discussed this, if it wasn't for the Rice injury, I think Travis Kelce would have been like the second option in this offense for a bulk of the season. But ultimately, injuries happen, and they leaned on the guy that's been the best tight end in NFL history. I understand it. So I'm not worried about, like, his decision to me will not just be like, I don't know if I want to be the third option. I think he was already maybe accepting of that going into last season. Remember, if we're being honest with the contract that he signed, when he signed that 2-year extension, I think most people thought, oh, okay, well, now we know he's going to play out these 2 years, and then that's it. And then as the season went on, because the yards per catch were only like 8 yards or so, which was certainly a drop-off from where he had been, everybody just now started talking more and more about retirement because the more and more the relationship with Taylor Swift got serious, I think, and everything like that. But what happened to, 7 months ago when everybody was like, oh, well, yeah, he's going to finish out the final 2 years. Then magically, everybody just assumed that maybe he's going to be done. That, to me, was a national narrative that was created a little bit. And then when the Super Bowl happens and you don't three-peat and your team gets beat up the way they did, I think it's less likely for him to retire because of that performance. Now, the text line is alluding to the contract, the financials. I've said this. If he comes back, I don't think he can come back at $19 million. And that means adding an additional year or converting some money. I don't think that cap hit can be $19 million. If Travis Kelce is going to be the third option in this offense or fourth for his final year, because I think no doubt it would be his final year at that point, it can't be a $19 million cap hit.
No, without question.
Which is what it is right now.
Right. And I don't know. I mean, if this is Travis's last year, I don't know how you put an extra year on it and convert some of that money over. That would be a question. It's fascinating to me because, I feel like a lot of people, myself included, have forgotten about, during media week at the Super Bowl where he's like, well, I hope I can play 2 or 3 more years. And then they lose the game and everybody kind of takes a step back. And you're right. There's always going to be a narrative that follows around this situation. It feels, and a lot of it is derived from national media and people that are tired of watching the Chiefs win, I think, in a lot of respects. Last year it was, is Andy Reid going to hang it up or blah, 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 blah. No, this might be it for Travis or this or that and the other. It's wishful thinking on the part of many, I think. I have always said that I felt like Travis was going to come back. And you're right, that $19 million is a lot. And if you can find a way to navigate that in a way that it is less taxing on the team's overall salary cap, that's great. I think for his production and his years of service, and maybe this is just me being an unabashed Chiefs fan, but I don't want to take money away from the guy, honestly, for what he's provided and what he was for the bulk of his career and how wildly underpaid he was for a good chunk of that.
But you don't have to do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can, as you pointed, you can lower the cap hit without
convert it into a roster bonus or performance incentives
and my
or whatever.
guess is if there was a player ownership would be willing to have to pony up some straight cash early to convert. That Clark Hunt, this is a player that you're talking about the greatest tight end of NFL history.
Yeah, he's earned it.
Someone that's a legend in this town and all of that. He's earned the right to come back, which is why I thought it was crazy. I don't know if you guys saw Ian Rappaport put out last night notable cut candidates across the NFL. Do you know who they listed as one? Obviously, I bring it up so you guys know the answer now, but Travis Kelce. Here was so I think it's ridiculous. It mentions, of course, the cap savings, right? If they cut him, 17.3. Here's the thing. Travis Kelce's either not playing football or he's playing for the Kansas City Chiefs in his final year.
Exactly.
That is it. Like the last sentence kind of made me laugh out loud in this article. It said, "This would be crazy, but Kansas City is split with legendary tight ends amid solid production before. See Tony Gonzalez." Totally different circumstance. I mean, one, for starters, Tony Gonzalez was not considering retiring at the time. They also traded him. So they didn't cut him. They traded him to the Atlanta. They weren't winning, okay? That was also a different general manager and a different head coach, and they weren't in the middle of a dynasty. I'm sorry, that example sucks. Like, that's a bad comparison. It really does. It's a terrible comp.
Yeah, it's a non-starter. None of that applies. I think, Tony might have been a little bit. I mean, they might have been around the same age.
I thought Tony was. I thought Tony was like 31 or 32, but he wasn't considering retirement. He just wanted to get to the playoffs and win a ring.
Yeah, he wanted to go win, and you're right. The fact that it's a trade versus a cut makes this conversation moot right off the bat. What Travis has provided the franchise in terms of winning, what he's provided Mahomes.
33. He was 33.
33. Okay, so he's a little bit younger than Travis is now. Yeah, I don't think that comparison is applicable at all. In any sense of the word, it doesn't apply because Travis has won 3 Super Bowls as the number one weapon. The quarterback, the franchise player, the face of the league is the guy's best friend. He has a absolutely stout relationship with the front office and with the ownership group and his relationship with Andy. He will retire before they cut him.
Of course.
No question.
There's no scenario where if he's playing football still, he's not playing for the Chiefs. So it's retirement or he comes back to Kansas City. That article I saw last night was ridiculous to suggest that he's a cut candidate. And that's why I bring up the $19 million cap hit, though. I do think there has to be some work on that if and when he comes back. But Diana Rossini maybe making you feel a little bit better if you're a Chiefs fan that wants Travis Kelce back in a Chiefs uniform moving forward. And I was talking about this with CDOT, too. I was on his national show he was doing this morning. We were discussing, it's very rare in the NFL, though, to have a player go into a season where we all know it's his last one. Like, if he comes back, we'll know that next year is it. Like, that'll clearly be it. And you don't get that in the NFL. Like, you don't get the... It's one thing to ride off in the sunset. That's rare. But even going in a season where you just know a star player is done at the end of that year, that doesn't really happen. Like Tom Brady to a certain extent, but he came back one more year after winning the ring. And maybe we thought it was over there, but typically you don't have almost like a, I joke because I think there's been MLB players that have gotten like gift baskets every city they go to when they're retiring in their final year. Like you don't see that in the NFL all that often. All right, coming up in about 5 minutes or so, we'll get to the trash of the day here on Cody and Gold. I want to talk about the Royals briefly. Spring training going on. Vern's going to check in from Surprise coming up at 12:45. We'll discuss a little bit about something that I know intrigues you as well, which is what they're going to be testing during spring training. And that is the automated strike zone with these robot umps and what that could look like in Vern's mind on Friday when the Royals have their first spring training game. But John Sherman was out there a couple days ago talking to the media about the stadium front. We didn't get to this yesterday. We ran out of time, but this was his update. And I'll be honest, if we want to call it an update on where things stand with their future home in Kansas City.
I think this is going to be a very exciting thing for our community, right? It's about economic development. It's also about securing the long-term home for the Royals. We're working very hard, and we got a deal that's buttoned up, and we're ready to talk about it. We're looking forward to being able to do that.
That was from Fox 4, as I said. Not basically like, we're excited to announce the deal when we have the deal, is essentially what if we're paraphrasing, essentially what he said. But I do think we have to be closer than ever. We're all sick of talking about this thing. We don't have to go through all the different missteps along the way from multiple parties involved. But it does feel like knowing that the Royals, out of the two organizations there at the Truman Sports Complex, they have said that when our lease is up, like we're out. Like we're done. No matter what, one way or the other, we're not playing at Kauffman. We all know that is a fact. That is the case. So we do a timeline. Like you don't have to be in construction to understand it takes some time for to break ground, to do land testing and all environmental testing and all these kind of things. Like they have to figure this out soon. I think we're 2.5 months from finding out max where the Royals are playing and whether or not that's the downtown site there. What is that, Washington Park, or it's the two sites that people have been floating out there on the Kansas side.
Yeah, this is taking a look at the numbers. The Royals have said time and time again that they want to have a new stadium set to go by opening day of 2028. They've said that over and over again. If you look at the most recent stadiums that have been built in Major League Baseball, they've typically taken anywhere between 30 and 36 months to build. So opening day of 2028 is 3 years away. I mean, you're right now sitting at 37, almost 38 months away. So if 30 to 32 months is the goal to get this thing built, you got to start now. And the decision, I agree with you wholeheartedly, will be made by the time we reach, maybe June.
Yeah,
I would say, and June might be pushing it, I would say.
And look, the 2028 thing, I think that's already off the table, though, man.
Yeah, I would agree.
That was in we're now in 2025. In 2023, that was their target. Like in 2023, their target was that 2028. Now I think it's just you got to get it done before the lease ends in 2030. I mean, honestly, I think that's where you're at this point. I already think the 2028 thing is kind of off the table, just because of everything that still has to happen. Now, maybe if the vote would have passed last April, then I think I'd be on board a little bit more with that timeline, man. I think people are just fed up with it. I will say there was a report this morning from, I believe it was it 97.1. Was it 97.1 here locally? Drew, we were looking at this before the show, and that's going to drive me crazy here locally.
I can't remember.
That was reporting on some stadium news that they were reporting that perhaps there was some land that was on hold in Kansas for the Chiefs, which I think we've all talked about this enough at this point in time that if the Chiefs go to Kansas, I think we know where that site's going to be. Like, that's not necessarily shocking to anybody. Like, if the Chiefs end up on the Kansas side, we know it's probably the Legends area, so it makes sense. But I think both these teams this spring and summer just have to. You must have to make a decision, and I don't think we're going to see a public vote again for either of these to make it happen. Maybe if the Chiefs stay in Missouri, but the Royals, one way or the other, are not going back to a public vote. That's over.
No, and it's unfortunate. I am of the opinion that I think if it would have been handled in a much more open and honest way, that it may have voted. It may have gone through in terms of the voting last April. I felt that it was a rushed decision, as I'm sure many do, right? We kept getting renderings of a Royal Stadium that kept changing constantly. It felt like every 2 months we were getting a new stadium rendering, and every 4 or 5 months we were getting a different location or potential spot for the ballpark. And it's downtown, it's West Bottoms, it's in Platte County. We're going to go to North Kansas City with it. And folks, can we just pick one? It's hard to vote on what you guys want to do when we have no idea what you want to do. And then after the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, they get thrown into the realm of things kind of late. And I know the Chiefs have continued to express willingness to stay at Arrowhead. I know that they love the Arrowhead location. They love the vibe and the ambiance that it brings. I would love to see, and this is just me speaking personally, I'm a little bit biased, right? You and I are very different in this aspect, Alex, because you grew up on the Kansas side. I grew up on the Missouri side. So I would love to see them stay on the Missouri side. But
see, this might surprise you, though. This is the first time we've hosted together. I've said, you're right, where I've grown up and where I currently reside is Kansas. But it's funny to me, the discussion with folks on the Missouri side about maybe leaving Missouri and acting like they're just never going to root for the team again or whatever. That's a select few, and I know that's not what you're saying.
No.
But the reality is, my entire life I've gone to Missouri for Royals and Chiefs games, and I've had no problem. I've done that my entire life. And if one of the teams happen to be in Kansas, great. And I still think one of them are going to end up in Kansas, as a matter of fact. I don't know if both will, but I think one of them will. And so, yeah, I get, would I be happy if one did? Sure. But, this idea of, oh, my gosh, it's the end of the world if one moves. I've gone to Missouri every single. I've had no problem spending a few dollars at the Truman Sports Complex my entire life. So, no, if you're asking my preference, I have just been consistent that I don't think it's worth renovating Arrowhead as much as I love it. It's the first stadium I ever walked into. My family had season tickets as a kid. Great memories there, unbelievable atmosphere. But if you're going to put in $500 million for a renovation or more, I think why are you not looking at building a brand new stadium? And if you're going to build a brand new stadium, I think that is Kansas. And by the way, it's 95.7 FM. 95.7 FM today that was reporting that there's land on hold in Kansas for the Chiefs. That's where that report came from. We'll get back to stadium conversation a little bit later on in the show, but let's get to the trash of the day.
Trash of the day.
All right, so this is piggybacking off of yesterday's fraud Troy thing involving faking that you're on a plane crash and then that you're also the special assistant to the Royals GM, that you're also a former Chiefs player. That was a whole real thing. Check the podcast if you missed it yesterday. So the update is, you guys may have seen that, unfortunately, with the Delta Airlines flight that crashed, 80 people, thank goodness, survived the incident. But they said that they will be giving $30,000 to every passenger who was on board that flight that flipped upside down. A spokesperson for Delta told Business Insider that the gesture has no strings attached and does not affect rights. They claim that you can get your $30K and you can still sue their ass. That's what they're saying. The $30,000 advance payment offered by Delta is a good start in the right direction as long as passengers do not have to give up any of their rights for full and fair compensation, said an aviation accident attorney out of Seattle. He is, of course, taking passenger cases from the Delta flight. Look, if there's no strings attached, well, then why wouldn't you take the $30,000? You were in a traumatic experience. You suffered it through a traumatic experience, and then I'm still suing, right?
Oh, dude,
because $30,000 is not enough for me to be upside down in a plane on fire.
No,
not whether I walked out or not. Not enough. I'm sure Troy is going to tell us that he's getting paid $100,000 before anything. I'm sure that's his story as well.
Yeah, I mean, you applaud the gesture of good faith, I guess, is hey, man, we messed up, hand in the air. sort of like, this is my bad, right? Quarterback throws a pick, my bad sort of thing. This isn't necessarily a, like, my bad situation. Like, you could have killed these people. Like, this plane was upside down. Like, there was a catastrophic failure on several counts in regards to this case. So, yeah, you pay out the $30,000. I don't know if there's a thought process that, like, some good Samaritan may now be unwilling to sue you because you gave them $30,000. I just don't understand the thought process at all. I don't know if it's like, no paperwork attached until you come and get the money, and then they're going to slide that $30,000 check underneath an NDA for you to have to sign before you'll get that money. And I don't know.
The attorney said that the Delta payout's not taxable under U.S. law, so you don't have to pay taxes on it. I don't know if there's just a PR thing. But like, if you know you're going to pay out all this money, you're going to end up getting sued still, it's kind of interesting. People say they want to hear more about our local Forrest Gump today. Troy in Minnesota, no updates today on this, other than people suggesting that they offered him $100,000, but he turned it down because he's such a nice guy. That's right. That'll be the new post. I wanted to message him on Twitter or on Facebook. I'm sorry, and be like, hey, so you gonna accept the $30,000 offer, just to get his perspective. We need to send Drew just to do a prank call off air. We can't do it live on the air for FCC reasons, but we need you to call him off air. Tell him, hey, by the way, this is being recorded. Let him know. You got to tell him you're recording it, and then let us know his answer.
I've heard of people being like in your private life to be like a pathological liar, like little white lies to make yourself seem more impressive than you really are. But to do it so publicly via social media is one of the most wild things I've ever heard. It's like compared to, and I can't remember the guy's name, but there was a kid a few years ago that was like a high school senior that had committed to like the University of Colorado or something, like on National Signing Day, and like signed this letter of intent, only for the University of Colorado to come out later and say, we've never heard of this guy ever. Like, he had this massive offer list, like actual recruiting publications were following his story, and they're like, we don't know who this guy is. We did not offer this man a scholarship. He is not enrolling at the University of Colorado. It's wild. That just insane levels of pathological lying to make yourself seem cooler than you are.
The plane crash one, though, is like, saying you're part
deplorable.
that one's sick. Now, and then we went down the road. Someone else says they think Troy is playing in the hockey game tonight. That's right. We'll find out that he actually played for USA Hockey. Yeah, someone says take the $30,000 and this go hire a great lawyer with the $30,000, basically. Someone says there's a third option, guys. Just don't sue. Look, man, it sounds like the early reporting suggests that it was Delta/Pilot Air. Sorry, man. If I'm in a plane upside down and on fire and I'm lucky enough to walk out, sorry, I'm suing.
Yeah, you're getting sued.
Sorry, if it was negligence. Sorry, I don't fault anybody for suing. Again, let me say that again. Upside down in a plane on fire. Something went wrong. That's the trash of the day. If you want to listen to the Troy story, 1 o'clock hour yesterday. Wait till after the show, But 1 o'clock hour, Odyssey podcast. Drew has it up there. It might even be labeled The Gear. I don't know. That's the guy's nickname.
I think the hour's labeled Fraud Alert.
Fraud Alert works too. All right, up next, we'll get to the Chiefs Red half hour. Could the Chiefs be playing internationally again, and which game could it be? That's next.
You're listening to Cody and Gold, brought to you by Heartland Men's Health, the leader in men's sexual health. Thousands of men have been successfully treated for low T, ED, and more, all with discretion and compassion. Make your appointment at heartlandmenshealth.com. Josh Vernier joins the show every day at 12:45, live from spring training, right here on your home for Royals baseball, 96.5, The Fan.
College basketball is reaching its most exciting stretch of the season. Right now, new customers on FanDuel get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $150 extra bucks to bet on everything from conference clashes to tournament upsets and even who's cutting down the nets. And after Missouri's big win last night against Alabama, you could go on FanDuel right now. Bet them to win the national title. Bet them to win the SEC conference tournament. All bets you can make. And if you've been wanting to join FanDuel, maybe you've been waiting, there's no better time. The app is easy to use, and when you win, you'll get paid instantly. So visit FanDuel.com/Alex. That's the promo code to use, Alex, and get in on the college hoops action before March takes over. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of 96.5 The Fan. 21 in President, Kansas. First on the real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bets and bonuses issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com.
It's February. What is more romantic than a new toilet? 2. This month we are offering buy one, get one half off a toilet replacement. Win those brownie points and call Connolly at 913-768-7676 or visit ConnollyPlumbingSolutions.com.
What's that sound? That's the sound of Downy Unstoppable scent beads going into your washing machine and giving your clothes freshness that lasts all day long. There it is again. It's like music to your ears, or more like music to your nose. That freshness is irresistible. Let's get a Downy Unstoppables bottle shake. And now a sniff solo. Nice. With Downy Unstoppables, you just toss, wash, wow, for all-day freshness.
At Diamonds Direct, we believe luxury is an experience and not a price tag. Luxury is expert guidance. It's the selection of 10 jewelry stores under one roof. It's saving time on endless comparison shopping, and you'll only find this experience at Diamonds Direct. Our luxury showroom has it all backed by our lifetime warranties and our signature best price guarantee. Diamonds Direct is the perfect combination of luxury and value, so you don't ever have to compromise. Learn more at diamondsdirect.com. Diamonds Direct, your love, our passion.
So the body knows that it needs to heal itself, but it doesn't know how to concentrate it and target it into just one area. So that's where we come in.
By we, Dr. Ashley Caravelli means the nation's leader in regenerative medicine, QC Kinetics.
We put in those treatments, then it sends out like little signalers to your body. We're able to make the body focus on the areas that need the most healing.
QC Kinetics has gathered brilliant medical minds like Dr. Caravelli and Dr. Mitchell Shinecup, a pioneer in the field of regenerative medicine, to lead the way in these innovative pain treatments.
So at QC Kinetics, we have a whole team working nationwide with cutting-edge research to reach our patients and treat them and know that surgery is no longer their only option.
The consultation is free. Find out if you're a candidate. Call QC Kinetics today.
Call QC Kinetics, 816-412-6299. That's 816-412-6299. 816-412-6299.
Taxes was taxing. Now taxes is relaxing when you file for free.
I can file for free? TurboTax Free Edition. Roughly 37% of filers qualify. Simple Form 1040 returns only. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free. I can file for free.
Now this is taxes. File for free with TurboTax Free Edition and get your maximum refund. No schedules except for earned income tax credit, child tax credit, and student loan interest. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, let's talk ED because millions of men experience it, but not everyone can access or afford treatments like Viagra. Well, Hims can help. Through Hims.com, you can get a full range of treatment options for ED, including daily or as-needed meds through a 100% online process. It all starts with an online intake form. Get started at Hims.com/joy, and from there, a medical provider licensed in your state will determine if ED treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your medication is shipped to you for free. Find the ED treatment that fits your needs with options up to 95% less than the brand names. Millions of men experience ED, but Hims can help. To start your free online visit and save up to 95%, go to Hims.com/joy. That's Hims.com/joy for your free online visit. HIMS.com/JOY.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place. For changes big and small. Loud or quiet. Find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Huge news. Right now at Wendy's, you can get a Son of Baconator for just $3. I don't think you understand this situation. The Son of Baconator is only $3 for a limited time. You know, smoked bacon, rich melted cheese. That Son of Baconator is only $3. Thank you to whoever wished upon that star. For bacon that just won't quit, gotta be Wendy's.
U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska and Hawaii, not valid on a combo or on third-party delivery platforms.
Chiefs coverage brought to you by Metal by the Foot, your metal project superstore.
Where can you find an extensive line of Blue Demon welding supplies, filler, rods, and wire? Metal by the Foot, located in Casey and Topeka. Online at metalbythefoot.com. When you need a piece of metal, remember, metal doesn't have to cost an arm or a leg, just the foot.
You're listening to 96.5 The Fan from the Mission Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling Studios. Welcome in to the Chiefs Red Half Hour. Every day at 11:30 with Cody and Gold on your new home for Chiefs football. 96.5 The Fan.
That's right. It is the Chiefs Red Half Hour. Thanks for hanging out with us here on a Thursday. It's Alex Gold. Logan Weber is filling in for Cody today. Drew Nixon producing the show. We'll get back to some Royals baseball with Josh Vernier about an hour from now. Get his perspective. I know today the Royals, some minor stuff. They announced they moved a few guys to different games at spring training. It's not the end of the world, but Friday's the opener, and now Chandler Champlain, it looks like, is going to move to Saturday's game. Some stuff like that. We'll also get what else he has noticed from some of the young guys there at spring training, because as Vern told us yesterday, pitching-wise, pitching's kind of set. Like, you're not really dealing with a ton of competition at the pitching spot necessarily with the top-level guys. But a good experience for some of the young players. And, again, Vern's got his hot stove show tonight. But, Logan, I wanted to talk about where the Chiefs' schedule could turn a little bit next year, because we've known the opponents for a while. We'll find out in May exactly when and what network and all that kind of stuff. But yesterday there was the international news that the LA Chargers are going to open up on that Friday. So the Thursday night game is going to be Philly against somebody. Last year, the Friday game was the Eagles and Packers in Sao Paulo, Brazil. This go around, the Chargers are going to be playing also in Brazil. So naturally, it's a divisional opponent. So there's a chance the Chiefs could be one of those teams. I think the Chiefs might be playing internationally next year, but maybe more as a host than it is on the road. You go back at these international games, a majority, I'm not going to say it's never happened, a majority of them are not divisional games. That's usually not how this goes. We know when the Chiefs played in Germany, it was against the Dolphins. It wasn't a divisional game. You know that last year, I just mentioned the Brazil game, that was Packers-Eagles, not a divisional game. Usually it's the Jags against like the Patriots, not a divisional game. Like, I think the majority of the time these have been non-divisional. Usually they don't want to move a divisional game away from a team. Like if you're the Chargers, you don't want to lose a home divisional game. It's one thing to lose a home game. So I know there's been discussion about the Chiefs being that Friday night game because it's Friday night and it opens the season and everything. I kind of disagree, man. I would be very surprised if the Chiefs are going to Brazil to play the Chargers because it's a divisional game.
Oh, no question. That early on in the year, it's very, very rare. You usually see, typically for the Chiefs in the last few years, the upper echelon, most high-profile teams in the league will play other high-profile teams, right? Like this past season, they played the Ravens week 1. The season prior to that, they played the Detroit Lions. So who's to say they won't play the Eagles week 1 or the Niners week 1 or potentially the Buffalo Bills week 1 or the Bengals, right? Whatever it might be. I understand the desire for many or the thought process behind, well, why not the Chiefs? Because like you said, it's an AFC West rival of theirs. The Chargers are going to be a very competitive football team next year. They were great this past season, and they have a very real shot at being able to pick up some big pieces in free agency this offseason, especially if they dump off Joey Bosa's contract and they can maybe re-sign Khalil Mack for the long term, what have you. Maybe go after T. Higgins if they so choose. I think that the biggest reason why I think the Chiefs rise to the fore outside of being an AFC West opponent for the Chargers is that, let's face it, from a rating standpoint, they are America's team right now. no team in the NFL generates a larger TV watching crowd than the Kansas City Chiefs do. And to put them in a situation there where they are the NFL's most polarizing team today, for whether you like them or not, they're wildly popular for that exact reason, because you either love them or hate them. To put them in a game like that to open up the season in a foreign country makes a lot of sense, to continue to try to spread the NFL and the game of American football across the world. But I agree with you. I don't see a division rivalry working in that sense. But I mean,
the NFL has put the Chiefs everywhere else, so I understand where everybody's at. I went back and looked. I'm not going to read through every single one, but they started playing international games in 2005. The NFL did, and that was a divisional game. As I said, I'm not saying there's never been an international divisional game, but a majority of these are not. Colts, Patriots. In even go back to 2023, right? That was not a divisional game. Dolphins, Chiefs, I referenced. Ravens, Titans, Jags, Bills, Falcons, Jaguars. Stop me when you get to a divisional game. Seahawks, Buccaneers. The last one was, once again, 49ers, Cardinals in Mexico. Broncos, Jags, Giants, Packers, Vikings, Saints, Dolphins, Jags, Jets, Falcons. I can go on and on and on. A majority of these are not. The Chiefs played the Chargers internationally in 2019. That was the Mexico game that I think got moved because Shakira had a concert or something on the field. Remember that whole thing?
Yeah.
I believe that got moved, right, to L.A. last minute. Or it was, I can't remember, was it actually played in Mexico, or there were just concerns about the field? I can't remember the entire story, but that was one of, in the last, last 10-plus international games, 2 of them have been divisional. So it's just unlikely. If there was ever to be an outlier to what you were saying, yeah, it would be the Chiefs, because they put them in every single marquee slot possible. They have them on Christmas. They have them on Black Friday and all this kind of stuff. But I actually think it's more likely the Chiefs might be hosting a game in Germany next year, and they're not going 2 international games. So maybe if you find out that they're playing the Chargers on that Friday, well, then they're not hosting. I think if you look at the Chiefs' opponents next year, and it's actually a really good home schedule, too. It would suck to lose one of these. They get the Eagles at home, the Commanders at home, the Ravens at home next year. The Detroit Lions are scheduled to be at home next year. I would hate to lose one of those at Arrowhead. Because the Texans, again, it's a really strong 2025 home schedule for Kansas City. It's more likely, I think, that they're in Germany hosting a game than it is that Chargers one.
Oh, I agree. There's better options, I think, at their disposal there. I mean, to imagine a Super Bowl rematch in Germany next season. I mean, that's a massive draw for people. To bring Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes over to Europe to play that game makes a lot of sense. I don't necessarily think that there's as much intrigue if it is Mahomes against Justin Herbert and the Chargers, who he has notoriously been wildly successful against, and the Chiefs have been wildly successful against for pretty much the entire length of Andy Reid's tenure in Kansas City, and especially once Mahomes was put in as the starting quarterback of this team. It's a game that means a lot to the Chiefs and the Chargers, but I don't think it has enough pull nationally or internationally to warrant a game of that magnitude in Brazil or Germany.
So that's, I mean, like, my reasoning's not that it's not an interesting matchup. It's just the fact that it is a divisional matchup. Like, I think the intrigue, remember, it's a Friday night. We just had a game on a Thursday. Everybody's watching that Friday night game because by that time people are football starved. Like, college football would have just got underway, week 0 or whatever it is. K-State opens that one up. But as far as the NFL goes, the Packers-Eagles game, I don't know the exact number on that one. I don't have that in front of me, the ratings. We could look it up in 2 seconds, I'm sure. But that game on a Friday, even if it's a Friday night, people are watching. It could be the Jags and Titans, and people are watching a Friday night game after not having football for 5 months or 6 months, I think, right? So we'll see. I mean, look, I'm not saying it's a 0% chance that the Chiefs are in Brazil against the Chargers. I just think it's really unlikely because of the divisional aspect. So who could it be? You look at the Chargers' schedule. Of course, any of the divisional teams, we know that. Then their home schedule, somewhat similar to Kansas City with some of the opponents. The Chargers would have the Commanders at home, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, Houston, Indianapolis. Those are potentials. Wouldn't you look at the chance? I could argue the Commanders going to Brazil and playing the Chargers that Friday night makes more sense. Put Jaden Daniels, who's the up-and-coming star of the league, had a great best rookie season we've ever seen from a quarterback. They're not a divisional game. Put the Commanders in Brazil on Friday night and have them go play against the Chargers. That, to me, is the matchup.
That would be, I mean, on the surface, that's a great one because you've got two coaches who wildly exceeded expectations in year one of their respective franchises with Dan Quinn and Jim Harbaugh, both of who have long, illustrious careers in their own rights. They've coached in Super Bowls before. You've got young quarterbacks in Justin Herbert and Jaden Daniels. I think that game makes a lot of sense because I think that those are two organizations that have wildly higher expectations this year than I think they even expected to have because of how much better they played above the expectation from a season ago. I would tune in to watch a game like that, and I'm not generally a person who will tune in and watch a random NFL game if the Chiefs aren't competing or if it's not a late season sort of divisional battle for, fighting for a playoff spot or fighting for a division championship. But I would tune in to watch a matchup of that magnitude. Chargers and Commanders, two coaches who have proven they can win at the highest level. That would be a fascinating one for me.
Yeah, the international games, just every year they're adding more. This is not changing. We just got to get used to it at this point in time. And I told you, the people that it hurts the most are the season ticket holders. Yes, there's an extra home game, but still, if you end up losing one of those if I always joke, how many Chargers fans really are there because their stadium's full of opponents, but if you're a Chargers fan, you'd be mad to lose the Commanders one because it's Jaden Daniels. But
right.
At the same time, Commanders fans are going to take over your stadium if they're playing in October. So, honestly, you might be better off playing that thing internationally at this point in time. When's the last time your Bengals played internationally, Drew? I feel like I haven't seen them play internationally in years.
They played maybe the Joe Burrow's second season, or maybe it was his rookie year. I think they played the Jaguars. In London.
Oh, well, that would make Jags.
2019, it says they played the Rams in London.
So that's been a bit. That's been a bit, man. This is 2025 now. That's been a bit. They feel like they're due.
I think that was Burrow's rookie year. But yeah, I think that's been some of the conversation. I don't know which one. There was one in particular that I think stood out in terms of conversation. This one actually would make some sense for the Bengals. I think it was one of those that was in London again.
Yeah, according to this article from Yahoo that came out a while back, if they don't get selected to play in an international game this year, they will absolutely play in one in 2027, at least according to the current CBA.
That might be the one in Australia.
Yeah, look, same thing applies to the Chiefs. If the Chiefs aren't playing internationally this year, I think they'll be playing internationally in 2026.
Do you think they're a lock to be that Australia game? Do you think it's a lock because it's the Chiefs?
I don't think it's a lock because if the Chiefs don't play in one this year, then I think they're for sure hosting one in 2026.
Yeah, it alternates.
Yeah, I think if it's not this year, then it pretty much locks them into 2026 playing internationally. And we know they enjoy. They have offices in Germany. They've been all in on the push internationally. And when you have Patrick Mahomes and you've been the best team in the league for the last 5+ years, I understand Philly just won, but that's going to be something.
It'll be
interesting
to see the just the difference of travel and all that stuff from a week-to-week basis, how the teams that play in Australia do the following week compared to other teams, because it's not like it's just a general 6-hour difference where right now it is in the middle of it's 5 or 6 a.m. tomorrow in Australia. At the moment. So it's very interesting how those...
We've talked about the timing stuff. Travel-wise, sure, it's an adjustment and all that. From a viewership, it doesn't matter. They'll play the game at 8 o'clock our time or whatever the time zone is. The time thing, they can make work.
They'll play at 8 o'clock on Saturday night our time, but it'll be Sunday afternoon, and then they'll fly, essentially. It's going to be a new day. They'll relive Sunday all over again, basically.
It's currently 5 a.m. in Australia tomorrow
on Friday.
So it's currently Friday, February 21st at 4:47 a.m.
Yeah.
So that almost 24 hours of time difference.
They'd get the bye week afterwards, maybe?
Have to.
There's no way that they play again.
Yeah.
And that's
what they've been doing. The Chiefs, when they played in Germany, even against the Dolphins, they had a bye right after that.
Yeah. And that's maybe my biggest caveat for this whole thing is I wish the NFL would do away with teams playing international games in back-to-back weeks, because we've seen that before. The Jaguars, I don't know if it was this past season or maybe 2 seasons ago, who played back-to-back weeks
but the Jags
internationally.
Volunteer for it, man.
I know.
The Jags, their owners hey, we'll play it. Put us over there as much as you want.
They ended up having to stay there over the course of literally almost 2 full weeks.
But that's the future. I will say this is if we want to go way like 15 years from now, maybe that's too far. I don't know. But if the league ever expands team-wise and certainly expands schedule-wise, we are headed, I think, where every team will play international games every year. Like, I don't think that's going to be crazy. It sounds nuts now, but in the next 10 to 20 years, I think every team will be playing 2 international games every year. We'll have double buys. We'll have all, like, I think that is where this thing is trending. I understand we would all like to just go back to the play 16 games, no international games, but that's just not where the money is, and clearly there's no stopping the train that everybody's on at this
so
point
much
in time.
so that Roger Goodell's like, yeah, we're going to have an international Super Bowl probably. Like, this is something that
we're
my
opinion, I hate that. I think that's
terrible. a lot of people
That's
don't
the one
like
thing,
it.
man. You don't move the Super Bowl to another country. I'm sorry. Like this, like you just don't do that. You don't I know there's not a championship game in the Premier League, but like if there was, they're not moving the Premier League final to New York City. They're just not doing that.
Yeah, I mean, the Super Bowl is already so completely inaccessible for the masses, and now you're going to move it to a different country where it becomes completely inaccessible for the masses.
To that point, some people might say, well, why does it matter? Because I can't go anyway. The country's biggest sporting event in it's obviously America's game. I know baseball pastime, but I'm sorry, the NFL's America's game.
Yeah.
Right? The numbers, everything back it up. You don't move the game for that league internationally. You can move all the regular season games you want and all that. You don't move the game. That would be, and you're right, Drew. The commissioner has said that that's probably going to happen in the future. I think that'd be a terrible decision.
Yeah, it seems like the consensus. I don't know I think they asked some players that actually as well. But the fan consensus is, why would you?
I bet Troy will make a trip out internationally, though, Drew.
Hey,
I bet he'll make it
what?
international.
He's going to be on
there
on Radio Row or whatever they want to call it in.
It'll still be Media Row. Why would they call it something different? It'll still be Media Row.
I have no idea. I know that Premier League games, they've talked about having Premier League games in the States. And
they probably are pissed about it over there, too.
Fans do not like it.
Yeah.
I mean,
but those are regular games.
Well, the owner of Bournemouth, who is an American, said, let's not do that.
Yeah, I just think there's some things you just,
keep it where
it's fine.
it is.
Baseball plays international games. I think they're opening up the Dodgers and
in Tokyo.
In Tokyo, I think that's right.
The Dodgers and Padres were there last year. I think
also,
it's somebody else.
Major League Baseball's got 162 games of inventory. If they want to move 20 games internationally, I'm cool with that. Like that's not a big deal to me. Anyway, that's just a little update on the international stuff here in the Chiefs Red Half Hour. Back to the offseason situation for Kansas City. We know that the cap kind of ties back into the international games happening, more money. The NFL announced that the cap is going to go up potentially as much as $281.5 million, get to that mark, I should say, right? In the range of $277.5. This past year was $255.5 million. So it could go up over $53 million over a 2-year period, which is great for the players first and foremost. And yes, it provides you with some more flexibility, but that means the free agent cost goes up. And that's the one thing that, it sounds simple, but it's amazing how every time this happens every year, they're like, well, now the Chiefs can keep blank player. I mean, yes, but that also means that, let's just use Tennessee. They also have more money to pay Trey Smith, or the Bears have more money to pay Trey Smith. So, yes, it means that they're not right up against the cap as much. But when they build their roster, Brett Veach in the front office, they have a spreadsheet looking into the future. Like they project what they think the cap is going to be in 2027 or 2028. So they're not caught off guard by this.
No, and the way you put it is the right one, in that, yeah, the Chiefs now have more money to, they have enough money now where they can pay Trey Smith what the market value is for a guard of his caliber. But now, if you're the Tennessee Titans or the Raiders, or I know the Los Angeles Chargers or the Bears have been two teams that have been pretty closely linked, they can now pay above market value. They could go on the verge of overpaying for a player like Trey Smith just to pull him from Kansas City. So it's not this big grand thing for the Chiefs, I think, in being able to keep guys around. And you're right. It's the nobody benefits more from this than the players. I mean, look at what the NBA has become year after year. I mean, remember that contract Timothy Mozgov signed after the Cavaliers won that championship?
At the time, it was a diabolically bad contract.
That was insane. They were paying him $20+ million. Timothy Mozgov, who's like a career 3 and 4 guy. That's where that's what's happening across the NFL now, is players who 5 years ago may have potentially been making $3 or $4 million. They might be closer to the $7 or $8 million range now. And for a guy like Trey Smith, who may have been $20 or $21 million in this market, now with this big salary cap push, he could be closer to 23 or 24 and may become the highest paid guard in the history of football.
And if you look at it too, now I know we referenced the Bengals and stuff, but I think even with the Chiefs, and you could say Trent McDuffie to a certain standard of the cap increases so much every year where you're better off paying that star player as soon as you can, as soon as you're willing to, instead of just waiting. Of course, we've seen it more the year before, the final year of the contract, just to try to get it done, because the money differences and the increase, where if you were to pay, if they pay Trent McDuffie even, let's say, top corner dollar, he's not going to get like top corner, but he's going to be in the range of Pat Surtain and everybody else who's up there. If they pay him that now, the cap will increase again. Not only will the market reset for the position, but the cap increases so much where if Trent McDuffie goes out and has another outstanding all-pro season, you're getting a bargain for what you already pay. You're already getting a bargain a year into the deal instead of having to wait an extra year or two for that cap to increase even more. That's how much of a difference it makes where, like the Bengals with Jamar Chase, for instance, they had paid him last year. He had such a good year where the cap increasing this year, it creates a bargain. You're already in a bargain for one of the best players at their position. So that's where
the deals that are already established for sure.
So the Chiefs getting McDuffie done in terms of the cap increasing could be huge when we look at that back at it in a year from now or even 2 years from now, how much of a steal they're getting essentially.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. And it also, if you are a team that got a big deal done just last year, this is, you gave the examples of multiple players, Drew. This was the whole argument I think we had back in September on the Jamar Chase thing. I mean, that was exactly it. It was like, man, you screwed. We had this Micah Parsons discussion earlier in the show. Yeah. It's like the Cowboys wait till the last minute, and all of a sudden the dollar amount goes way up.
You lose money by doing it, yeah.
So while the open market, the cap doesn't change too much for that because those players will still get top dollar and the dollar amount goes up. Absolutely. It means it's why quarterback deals and why Mahomes is not the highest paid quarterback in the NFL currently, because as time goes on. It's why Derek Carr for 3 months was the highest paid quarterback in the NFL many years ago. For 3 months. It's why Brock Purdy might be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL for like a year, maybe, depending on how that plays out. $60 million a year, man. I think it's going to happen.
Oh, it wouldn't shock me at all, and I think the Niners would be foolish not to do it. It's the NFL and its growing popularity and the growing revenue. The new TV deal has affected so much. The market is never the market for long. We talk about the market reset. I don't know if it ever set itself. I mean, it changes so consistently and so wildly that you can never say that we have a salary cap market or always reset the market at guard. Okay, that market was set 3 days ago. So obviously there's something that's not working here.
He's Logan Weber. He's filling in for Cody Tapp. Alex Gold, Drew Nixon with you here on Cody and Gold. Up next, we'll get to what's trending. There's some breaking news in sports. We'll fill you in on what that is. Plus, get back into college basketball. Missouri with another top 5 win. The bar has to be raised for what they do in the tournament. We'll tell you about that next.
This is Cody and Gold on your home for Kansas City sports. 96.5, The Fan. Brought to you by Heartland Men's Health, the leader in men's sexual health. Thousands of men have been successfully treated for low T, ED, and more, all with discretion and compassion. Make your appointment at heartlandmenshealth.com.
Hey, it's Rex here with RexBuysKC.com, your local KC homebuyer. If you own a property in the Kansas City or surrounding area and want to sell it fast and at a fair price, write this number down. 816-330-6000. I'm a private real estate investor, not some hedge fund or large national chain. My family and I live right here in KC. I can pay cash and close on your timeline, even in as little as 3 days. Here at RexBuysKC.com, we're improving Kansas City one house at a time. I buy inherited houses, vacant houses, foreclosure houses, behind in payment houses, my tenant won't pay the rent houses, and properties that need complete rehabs. Do you own a house that's trashed and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great. If you own a house and want to sell it fast, call me at this number, 816-330-6000. That's 816-330-6000, or go to RexBuysKC.com. That's RexBuysKC.com, and I look forward to working with you.
Hey, it's Karen with Shamrock Roofing and Construction. Ready to replace that roof? We have flexible financing options, 12 months same as cash, and don't make a payment for 90 days. And that's just one of many options we offer. Get on the schedule now with our in-house Consumer Credit Center. One call does it all for flexible payment options, affordability, and peace of mind. Visit shamrockroofer.com. That's shamrockroofer.com or call 1-866-932-3545 today.
Basketball fans, don't miss the MIAA Basketball Championships March 5th through 9th at Municipal Auditorium. 18 games over 5 days, the nation's best small college basketball tournament will feature some of the nation's best Division II teams. Get your tickets now through Ticketmaster and visit odyssey.com/965thefan/events February 20th through 24th to register to win free tickets. MIAA Madness, March 5th through 9th. Bring your A-game.
Men, this is Jeff for Heartland Men's Health. And though I generally talk about medicine and effective treatments for erectile dysfunction and other men's sexual health issues, today I want to talk about love. Because love is the best reason to get treated for your ED. You see, ED can cause major relationship issues. In fact, men often push their partners away when ED becomes a problem. The condition can cause depression, arguments, breakups, and even contribute to divorce. But the good news is that if you're like most men suffering with ED, you can be successfully treated at Heartland Men's Health and put a stop to the relationship stresses that ED can cause. I say this with all confidence because we have treatments that are effective in well over 90% of cases. Surely, it's likely you'll find you're performing like you haven't in years. So make an appointment and get the love back in your life. Your initial visit is just $99 and includes blood work, a medical consult, and if medically advised, a test dose. And if that test dose doesn't work in the office, your visit is free. Call 844-447-6600 or go to heartlandmenshealth.com. We have 3 offices, Overland Park, Independence, and North Kansas City.
I'm Brian Tedesco, CEO of Blaupunkt Americas, the pioneers of the car stereo. Today, we're not just about sound systems. We are revolutionizing the e-bike scene with Blue Dot Bike. Thanks to AmericanEagle.com, our online presence now features a dynamic e-commerce website that showcases the quality and affordability of our foldable e-bikes. And our collegiate e-bikes, just perfect for the college fanatic. These e-bikes offer a new way to experience freedom on 2 wheels, no matter your age. When we needed a top-notch website to match our cutting-edge e-bikes, we turned to AmericanEagle.com. They made the impossible seem easy, tackling digital challenges like pros. Check out the Blue Dot Bike website to see AmericanEagle.com's amazing work in action. Need the best in website and digital marketing solutions? AmericanEagle.com is your go-to. They've been a game changer for us, and they can be for you too. Visit AmericanEagle.com or call 877-WEB-NOW-1. That's 877-WEB-NOW-1.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Huge news. Right now at Wendy's, you can get a Son of Baconator for just $3. I don't think you understand this situation. The Son of Baconator is only $3 for a limited time. You know, smoked bacon, rich melted cheese. That Son of Baconator is only $3. Thank you to whoever wished upon that star. For bacon that just won't quit, gotta be Wendy's.
U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska and Hawaii, not valid on a combo or in third-party delivery platforms.
Head home with The Drive. Weekdays starting at 2 on 96.5 The Fan, KFNC FM and AM HD1 and HD2 Kansas City, an Odyssey Sports Station. What's trending?
What's Trending is presented by Baker University, where graduates earn higher salaries and land jobs faster than any other university in Kansas. Apply today at bakeru.edu. By the way, congrats to Baker University. Their men's basketball team won conference regular season crown last night, I believe, against Benedictine as well. But number one on What's Trending, breaking news in the NBA. Victor Wembanyama expected to miss the remainder of the season, according to Yahoo Sports and others now, with a deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder. In other words, a blood clot. Very
Yikes.
serious thing. For Victor Wembanyama. So he's done for the season. Huge impact in a lot of different betting markets and a lot of different, approaches to the rest of the season in the NBA and how the Spurs handle things and what that means for them. But we're talking about one of the biggest stars in the league, done for the year.
Welcome to the lottery, San Antonio Spurs. Yeah. Welcome to potentially the top 10, maybe even the top 5, depending on how bad they tank here for the rest of the season. I don't think they're going to be in contention for the number 1 overall pick. I think the Jazz and Pelicans and Wizards are going to have something to say about that. But, yeah, this is a tough one. And I hate to be the one to say it, but you just hope that this is not a sign of things to come, right? I mean, you never want to see this happen, but we see it happen occasionally with players of his size and his stature. Injuries or things of that nature become a factor in their life in the game of basketball, right? I always point back to guys like Greg Oden, who was this absolutely astonishing prospect, right? He's the guy that went number 1 ahead of Kevin Durant. Sam Bowie was another one in that draft where Olajuwon goes 1 in 84. He goes number 2 out of Kentucky. And then you've got Michael Jordan sitting at 3. Victor Wembanyama is as good a prospect or talent to enter the NBA that many of us have ever seen. I mean, I watched that Paris game that they had against the Indiana Pacers. I made my wife sit down and watch it with me. And she was mesmerized by the way this man played basketball. At 7'4", he handles like a guard. That shot block he had against Chet Holmgren a couple of weeks ago where he was literally standing, like he didn't jump, and got up 10-plus feet and blocked Chet Holmgren's shot at 7'1". He's an alien, and hence the reason for the nickname and why the deals that have come his way. I want to see him have a long and healthy career in the NBA. I just hope that this isn't a sign of things to potentially come in his career where he's constantly dealing with these injuries and health concerns because of his size at 7'4".
Next up on What's Trending.
Oh, man, what is trending right now?
How about those Missouri Tigers, right? Another top 5 win last night in Columbia over Alabama. We're going to talk more about this game, including how Dennis Gates handled the final seconds, I should say, really, of the game with the PA announcement, and then something happened in the press conference. So we'll get back to that. Missouri's got 3 top 5 wins now on the season. They're up to 13th, I think, or 12th in KenPom. So the Missouri Tigers, they could end up being a top 3, top 4 seed come March Madness.
They can score with anybody. The defense is going to be the question. I mean, giving up 90. I know Alabama's a solid offensive team, but they have a tendency to give up big chunks of points. They've given up 90 multiple times. They've given up 80 a handful of times as well. Offense is great, but the adage is that defense wins championships, and college basketball has kind of proven that over the course of the years, that offense will allow you to stay in a game, but defense is what allows you to win big games come March and April, for sure.
Next on What's Trending, Diana Rossini was on the Rich Eisen show, and she said Travis Kelce, that is, of course, is leaning towards coming back for 2025. We'll play you a little bit of that. We'll get back to this topic later on in the show, too. But here's what she said.
I can tell you from just having a few conversations with people around the league over the last few days, there's definitely a sense that Travis is going to try to play more. I haven't heard anyone say, he's really struggling with what he wants to do. It's definitely leaning more towards that. That can, of course, change. This is going to be his decision only. But for this Chiefs operation looking to move forward here, I think they feel pretty good that Travis has got a little bit more left in him.
If you're a Chiefs fan, maybe you feel a little bit better, even after hearing that audio about Travis Kelce's chances of coming back in 2025 and what would I think assuredly be his final season, even if they were to rework the contract a little bit. Elsewhere in What's Trending, soccer last night. I mean, one of the coldest games between MLS teams. I know it wasn't a MLS game. It was the CONCACAF Champions Cup, but still one of the coldest games out there. Props, I guess, to those of you that
there's more than I thought
braved
out
the
there.
elements. Yeah, I watched it on TV. I think there were some people that stayed for the first half and then they were out.
As soon as I saw Massey score, I was like, dang it, I should have gone.
Yeah, that was the lone goal. Sporting KC lost the first leg of this CONCACAF Champions Cup opening round, 1-0 to Inter Miami. And the folks got what they paid for, right? They wanted to see Messi. They wanted to see what Messi, and that was a great goal from Messi, the lone goal in the match.
Yeah, memories that will last a lifetime. I just hope that your toes and fingers lasted throughout the course of that match as well.
I couldn't help but notice. So, the players, of course, had gloves and long sleeve and stuff. They also had, one of those neck guard things. None of them had anything over their ears or face. And I'm like, was that not allowed? Because, we heard stories at the Chiefs game, and I understand 45 minutes they were able to go in the locker room or whatever. But still, I'm thinking, how are they handling this? The frostbite, doesn't it only take 20 minutes when it's negative something wind chill?
I don't know if it's not not allowed, but I have never seen a soccer player wear anything over their
They
ears.
can't wear
in
one of
cold
those,
weather.
what do they call it? Baklava, right? Baklava mask? I think that's what they call those.
I've never seen
like
the
Shiesties, or I think is another phrase for them.
Look like Kadarius Toney out there, yeah.
I don't know. I was like, man, props to the players as well that played. That was just, what a miserable game to play in and be at.
I'm sorry. Admittedly, I'm not the biggest soccer fan on the planet, but even if that was a football game, you'd have to pay me to go.
Oh,
I'm a cold weather guy, but that is too damn cold.
I said I would have needed to be in a suite last night to go. I would have needed to be in a suite with heat.
I need my own
warm.
personal space heater. That's what I need.
Next on What's Trending, USA versus Canada tonight. Hockey in Boston. Earlier in the week, I mentioned I think the NHL has hit a home run here with the Four Nations face-off thing they've been doing to get intrigue. Casual fans like myself, I am not a hockey fan, but I was glued to the TV a couple nights ago, and I can't wait to watch tonight. USA versus Canada in Boston. The crowd, I want to see what the crowd's like because tickets, the cheapest tickets are going for $1,100 tonight in Boston. We all know the story, right? Canadian fans were booing the U.S. national anthem, all of that. Like, I just want to see the whole theater of the thing. How do we have a fight early on the match again? We had 3 fights in the first 9 seconds of the match the other day, so I can't wait to see how that plays out.
This is what the NBA should be doing, right? If you're Adam Silver, you're the commissioner of the NBA, and you're asking, what do we need to do to increase the popularity of the All-Star Weekend? Because the three-point contest and the dunk contest, those just are what they are. But in terms of the All-Star game itself, I like the approach of the 4-team format and all that sort of stuff. Similar, but the fact that it's nation against nation in that sense, and you can't really do that in the NBA because it is such a wildly international sport now. But if you could do like a USA versus the world like they used to do with like the Rising Stars showcase, I think that would generate a massive amount of popularity towards the NBA All-Star game again.
Yeah, I mean, look, NHL, that was the first full hockey game of the year that I watched, was what we just saw a couple nights ago in Montreal, and then tonight. Yeah, I'm pumped for it, man. And I don't know. I think I was reading up on it because I don't claim to be a hockey expert by any means, and I guess Canada maybe is getting like one of their better players back or something tonight. So I don't know if that bodes well for USA, but hopefully Boston is nuts tonight. You know that crowd's going to let the Canadians hear it tonight too, so it's going to be pretty wild to see. Maybe we'll talk more about that later on in the show. Reminder here, in about 30 minutes, we'll head out to warm, surprise Arizona and check in with Josh Vernier, our Royals insider, how things are looking on another day there in spring training. He, of course, has his hot stove show tonight as well. Chris Bubich, one of the guests, also Annie Rogers, some of the guests tonight for his hot stove show. But we mentioned in What's Trending there, the Missouri Tigers, another top 5 win. They've got 3 of them on the season. This one was so impressive. I understand that the Florida win was on the road in Gainesville in that atmosphere. And weirdly, I think last night was more impressive. I think Alabama's better than Florida, number one. And also, you put up over 100 points in that game. The efficiency of that offense, that beats anybody in the country. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to play like that every night, but that offense shows you why they can beat anybody and why you should be fired up if you're a Missouri Tigers fan, finally having a team that's capable of going on a run. And that's where the expectation, I think, has to change. You know, the 08-09 team went to an Elite Eight and lost. I do not think it's crazy to have that kind of expectation for this team now. They didn't win a conference game a year ago, and so you come into this year probably as a Tigers fan saying, just get to the tournament, please. Just get to the tournament. We're way past that now. This is a team that might be a number 3 or 4 seed if they keep trending in this direction. I mean, they are probably going to go from, 15th ranked from the AP poll standpoint at least, which doesn't mean a whole lot, up to 10, up to 11 after another top 5 win, depending on how things shake out this weekend. So if you're a 3 or 4 seed, getting out of the first weekend is 100% the expectation.
Without question. And, and that's hard, I know, for Mizzou fans, because the last time you were in a position such as this, I'm sorry to be the one to say, Norfolk State happened. And I know the PTSD, a lot of Mizzou fans just duck and cover behind their radio dials. There's a fear that resides in that if you're a fan of the Missouri Tigers. But this team is so balanced. They can score inside. They can score outside. They've got any number of guys. They got 8 or 9 guys that could give you double figures on a particular night. When you have a guy like Caleb Grill coming off the bench, scoring the way he scores, I mean, inside, outside, the 3-point shooting that he's got, it's pretty impressive stuff. And when Mark Mitchell is playing it the way that he played last night, I think the concern if you're Mizzou is if you have a poor shooting night, because those are going to happen. And if your defense is questionable in a sense and you have a poor shooting night, that's not a lot to contend with. And that is going to be an interesting question for this team. You know, Mark Mitchell's not the greatest rebounder on the planet, so if you don't shoot the ball well and you get dominated on the glass, you could be in for a rough night. And yes, what they're doing in the SEC kind of gives you a little bit of a snapshot into what they might be able to do in March, because it is the best basketball conference in America.
13 teams in the NCAA tournament or something like that.
It is unquestioned the best conference in college basketball this year. When you come out in March and you've got to play a team out of the Big 12 or a team out of the Big 10 that, you know, they weren't playing in your league. They may not be as talented, but they have a different style of play. Maybe they're a more, you know, interior-minded scoring team and defending team. It's going to be hard for you to get to the rim. Maybe they're an excellent three-point defending team. You're going to have to find an approach. And the one thing about the game of basketball that will always translate is your effort defensively. Always.
Yeah, I think as somebody pointed out too, like if you're looking for what could be the problem in the tournament or whatever for a team that's playing great, you know, you always talk about the free throw percentage and is that good enough in crucial spots and things like that. But right now, offensive output that they're able to put out can beat anybody. I was looking at the latest odds. If you're just curious, like to even have this discussion is pretty nuts. Missouri right now has the, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, ninth best odds to win the national title right now. If I would have told you that in November, you would have been like, you're like, what are you? You would have called me crazy. It's still 30-1, right? It's still quote unquote long shot. But they have the ninth best odds to win the national title. They are just behind Arizona and Tennessee. Now, Iowa State is ahead of them, and it's half the odds, basically. It's 17-1. But Missouri has better odds than Drew, your Wisconsin Badgers, who are 35-1. Texas Tech, 35-1. Michigan, 40-1. A&M, Texas A&M, 40-1. That's the realm they're in as far as betting markets. Doesn't mean that there's any guarantees that the favorite Auburn, who clearly I think is the best team in college basketball, is plus 330. Auburn absolutely is the best team right now. But Missouri, like they got a shot. I'm not saying they're like going to a Final Four guarantee or anything like that, but
there's no guarantees in college basketball.
It's the NCAA tournament, right?
Yeah, there's no guarantees.
You just have a bad night, or you run into what's his name? I keep forgetting his name already. From Oakland, like last year, Kentucky did. Golke. You run into a guy like Golke that you can't miss. Who knows what can happen? I mean,
Ali Farouk Manouche.
KU obviously ran into that. Like so that Missouri, Norfolk State, Norfolk
fans don't want to hear
State.
that name again.
I mean. But that's why I bring up the 08-09. Like, if you're a Missouri Tigers fan, because there has been other circumstances where you thought you were going to go on a run and you lost to Norfolk State. I mean, that happens. But 08-09, that team went to the Elite Eight. So that's what I think that's your level of team that you think maybe you have.
Well, and this isn't to continue, poo-pooing on your on the KU is bad party, I guess, that Carrington is just trying to run through more than its course of. But Missouri, we talked about KU. They get Zeke Mayo. They get AJ Story. You're going after top 25, top 50 guys in the portal. I looked. Missouri is hitting a number 126 in the portal. They're hitting 102 in the portal. They're hitting 55 in the portal. With my guy Tony Perkins, who's from my hometown of Indy, went to my rival high school. You find guys that fit what you need right away. Where Logan, I think you mentioned it as well, like the freshmen that he recruited aren't even getting as much playing time, which goes to show you how effective everybody who Dennis Gates has brought in has been. But you recruit that four-star talent, and then you build around them. And then if you happen to have guys that are just overtaking those freshmen and they can sit and continue to learn, and then you have them again for another year, then great. But finding what you need and hitting those needs rather than just saying, okay, he's number 1 in the portal. He's number 2 in the portal. He's number 15 in the portal. Like I remember, like before the season started, I think during the Midnight Madness or whatever, Bill Self himself said, "Yeah, we got a pretty good roster update." Yeah, it looks great. It looks great on paper when you get a guy that averages 20 a game, 15 a game, 18 a game. But if they can't all put it together in your system the way that you have things set up, then and there's too many egos, it doesn't mesh well. Where Dennis Gates has found a way to find the guys that mesh what he does well, and they obviously have been fantastic this season.
Fantastic, right, Drew? Fantastic. Nate Oates, the head coach of Alabama, was speaking to the media after the game. Take a listen.
They perfect and press conference over, I guess, right? Somebody pulled the fire alarm. Is that what we got going? Yeah, they were on fire tonight. That's for sure what was going on. We've known that for about 2 hours.
A little humor there from the Alabama head coach, Nate Oates. Yeah, we've all been in a spot like that before where all of a sudden the intercom kicks on for something like that. I don't know if we've had the fire alarm going off in the studio before. I feel like we have, but I don't know if ours has like the whole intercom announcement deal that some of the bigger facilities or whatever has. But
you say that now.
Yeah, you just spoke that into existence.
I don't know if we have the intercom thing is all I'm saying, but Missouri was on fire, though, 110 points. They gave up 98. I'm sure they won't like that aspect of it.
They were nuts.
But and Alabama was making shots, too. But 110 points, that offensive efficiency will give you a shot every single time. All right, I want to talk about something that I know everybody gets annoyed with because whether we're talking about Royals TV stuff, whether we're talking about Christmas Day, Netflix games, and that, of course, is where things are going streaming. Bad news for you. The latest update is that Netflix is not just trying to have these Christmas Day games. Nope. They're trying to get one of those afternoon packages on Sunday from Fox or CBS. Now, it's not going to happen this year necessarily, but it's on the way. There's been a couple reports about this that Sunday afternoon games, of course, have been CBS and Fox. Fox acquired the NFC package. Remember when each network had their own conference? Now AFC games can be on Fox as well. But you guys remember at the time, CBS bought the AFC package and Fox had the NFC package. The current deal goes through 2033. But the NFL can say, hey, we think we have a better deal. They can pull the plug 4 years earlier. Why wouldn't they? The dollar amount's only going to go up. So basically in 2029, these deals actually end up, not 2033. And the latest is that Netflix wants to become an even bigger player in the NFL, not just these Christmas Day games. And so do not be surprised. We're still 4 or 5 years away. But all of a sudden, a Sunday 3:25 kickoff, it might also be on Netflix. The way the NFL operates, if it was a Chiefs game or whatever, then you could still get it locally without having to have Netflix, just like you guys did that for Christmas Day, and we all did that for Christmas Day. But this is where it's trending, and this is like, I understand, like, we get mad about Major League Baseball and how a lot of the stuff is streaming and all that. The NFL is taking slower to get there, and their inventory is way less and all that. But this is where this thing is going, man. We're gonna have more and more games. Thursday night's already on Amazon. Christmas is on Netflix. The Friday Black Friday game is on Prime as well. This is a different territory when you get to just your regular Sunday afternoon game. But you could have one game on Netflix every Sunday afternoon in the future.
No question. Listen, for those who are standing firm with their cords and their satellite dishes and whatever else, I applaud you. I applaud you taking a stand. You're fighting a losing battle. It's over. This is where it's going. Everybody's known that for years. This is just another example of it. Like it or not, right? I'll give Netflix a little bit of credit because the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight, which I absolutely did not watch because I knew it was going to be a train wreck.
I couldn't watch.
Exactly, it was a nightmare. And they corrected that a little bit. It was better during the Christmas Day games. There weren't really many issues, at least on my end, with my experience with that Chiefs-Steelers game. This is where it's headed. This is where it's been headed for several years. We've all known it. I think that there's good and there's bad to it. It's where the money is, right? It's an adapt or die industry, and they understand that streaming is replacing cable and satellite in almost every other aspect of life. I mean, my parents are in their late 40s and 50s, and they've had Hulu Live TV for 5 years. I mean, they had DirecTV for years and years. They cut the cord and cut the satellite dish, and they've been using streaming for everything they have. So a lot of people are already streaming games. Even if you are watching it on CBS, maybe you're watching it on YouTube TV or Hulu Live TV or Tubi or whatever platform you're already using. This is just another thing, and most people have Netflix to begin with, so for me,
Netflix needs the sports, man, because their actual content kind of stinks right now.
It's not great.
And every 3 months, they're raising the rate on Netflix.
Yeah, they're getting bullied by Amazon Prime and Hulu and Apple. Yeah, they're not doing a great job. And it's not like it's this random, obscure sort of like, Drew, I heard that you're a Wisconsin fan. I've now found out that you're a Wisconsin fan.
And a Butler fan.
Okay, so I went
to... And a K-State fan.
Okay, I went to Butler. I have watched not one Butler basketball game this year. I've watched only Wisconsin. So I went to
Okay,
Butler.
is Butler terrible this year? Is that why? Are they any good?
They've been bad for a long time, ever since they went to the Big East, to be honest with you. But I don't even watch my alma mater play. I watch Wisconsin play.
That's sad.
I'm a Wisconsin guy through and through.
I'm not sure how Drew and I can be friends.
Yeah,
because
Mr. Iowa
he's a Wisconsin guy and a Bengals fan, and I am an Iowa fan and a Chiefs
tough,
fan.
you know. It's tough.
It's tough out here in these streets.
It's a strange one. Like the only
in
thing
these
that would be
Kansas
worse.
City streets, I guess.
The
Yeah.
only thing worse would be if you were a Nebraska fan and a Bengals fan.
That's
then
Steven
it would be
Spector.
over.
Yeah, that's the boss.
It's not me.
That's the boss.
Speck's a Nebraska fan.
Oh yeah.
His fandom is all.
We're fighting.
No, hold on. I need to call Speck out.
Oh,
Sorry,
boy, here we go.
Hold on, Logan. He went to Syracuse, but he cheers for Duke basketball. That is insane to me.
He does. This is true. This is true.
You went to Syracuse in the Boeheim era and you cheer for Duke?
For the life of me, I don't understand why Speck went to Syracuse, but he cheers for Duke. I don't know how that's possible.
That's
I
wild.
don't know
You
how
went
it's
to a
possible.
basketball school but don't like the basketball at that school. Hey, man, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a fascinating subject, but like as I mentioned that Drew is a Wisconsin fan, I'm sure you've watched Wisconsin games on Peacock. It's bizarre
They're
to
all
me
on
that
I
it's
know,
all
I
on
know.
Peacock nowadays. It could be worse, right? We're not getting NFL games on Peacock yet.
A lot of people have the services, but I think it's not the fact that they're on different
At
services.
least Netflix,
it's
most
that,
people do already have. But yeah,
It's that if I want to watch the game on Netflix, I have to transition to a new app, and I can't just scroll to find the next game, or I can't multi-view it. I have to go to a new app to watch the game, and it's exclusive just to there. Where if the game stinks, I have to go back to. You're not able to go back and forth on commercials or anything.
You're
like
describing cable, you know, where you can flip channel to channel. No, I think that's an annoyance for a lot of people. Someone on the text line, 913-586-7965, Jay Southland Tow Service text line from the 913 says, hey, how is this a bad thing? It's just another regular game we get on Sunday afternoons without needing Sunday Ticket or some illegal streaming site. As long as we still get one game on CBS and Fox now, we get a guaranteed third game. That's a positive. But here's the thing. I don't know if that's what it would be. Like, I hear what you're saying, which is right now, you know, you guaranteed you sometimes, depending on the schedule, you at least get one on CBS, one on Fox. You sometimes don't get both, remember, though. So I wonder, depending on what market are you in, will there ever be a Sunday afternoon in 2029 where if you're not in a certain market, the national game, instead of it being Fox, like the national America's game or whatever, is the Netflix one. And then only the local market gets the random, you know, Tennessee Jacksonville game or something like that, like bad game anyway. But point being, I hear what you're saying. I don't take it as that there would be a CBS, a Fox, and then a Netflix that you could access all three. If that's the case, then you're right.
Great,
then you get an opportunity to watch all three. My guess is with the rights that Netflix would be paying for, you would have the TV market, depending on when the Chiefs play or whatever, you may only get one game, and that game that week might only be Netflix. But if it's all three, then yeah, who cares? You're right. Then it ends up being all right. Alex Gold, Logan Weber, Drew Nixon with you here on Cody and Gold. Up next, I want to get back into what Jeff Schwartz had to say. One concern around the offensive line and how people are discussing someone they just drafted a year ago. And then we'll head out to Arizona and talk with our guy, Josh Vernier, about the Royals' start to spring training.
Cody and Gold.
I didn't sleep well. I was drunk.
Brought to you by Heartland Men's Health, the leader in men's sexual health. Thousands of men have been successfully treated for low T, ED, and more, all with discretion and compassion. Make your appointment at heartlandmenshealth.com. 96.5, The Fan.
College basketball is reaching its most exciting stretch of the season. Right now, new customers on FanDuel get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $150 extra bucks to bet on everything from conference clashes to tournament upsets and even who's cutting down the nets. And after Missouri's big win last night against Alabama, you could go on FanDuel right now. Bet them to win the national title. Bet them to win the SEC conference tournament. All bets you can make. And if you've been wanting to join FanDuel, maybe you've been waiting, there's no better time. The app is easy to use, and when you win, you'll get paid instantly. So visit FanDuel.com/Alex. That's the promo code to use, Alex, and get in on the college hoops action before March takes over. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of 96.5 The Fan. 21 and present in Kansas. First on the real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bets and bonuses issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com.
I love Hy-Vee for so many different reasons, but one of the things I love most about Hy-Vee is their customer service. Everyone that works at Hy-Vee is awesome. And you know what else I love about Hy-Vee? I don't have to sacrifice quality and service to get low prices. Hy-Vee just dropped the price on thousands of items in every aisle, in every department, on items I buy every day, both in-store and online. Hy-Vee even match prices with the nation's biggest discount stores. So check out Hy-Vee today and get those low prices only at Hy-Vee.
Something big is happening at Hy-Vee. We've just lowered thousands and thousands of prices on thousands and thousands of items in every aisle and in every department. Online, too. And on many of your favorite products, we've even matched prices with some of the biggest discount stores in the country. Because we get it, times are still tough. So we'll continue to work hard to bring you new lower prices on thousands of items. Things are looking different at Hy-Vee. Come see for yourself.
Advent Health welcomes the KC Golf Show February 21st through 23rd at the Overland Park Convention Center. Test and buy big brands and enjoy new women's and kids programs Saturday at the show. Front door bonuses and tickets at kansascitygolfshow.com.
Hi, it's me, your USPS Ground Advantage shipment. Just left the warehouse and hitting the road.
I know. Just got the notification.
Great. Smooth sailing so far. I'm almost there.
Yes, I know. I get all the updates.
Made it. Safe and sound.
I know.
Well, did you know I was with USPS the whole time?
Oh, yeah. I know.
Keep your business in the know with the USPS Ground Advantage service. Visit USPS.com/in-the-know.
Has a loved one died and left you an old car to sell? GiveMeTheVin.com has just launched the new service GMTVCC.com. Write this down, GMTVCC.com, which is Give Me the VIN classic and collector car buying service. GMTVCC.com will hook you up with GMTVCC Pro buyers that will appraise and offer on that 69 Chevelle, old Corvette, old truck, and especially Restomods. We love Restomods at GMTVCC.com. Don't mess with consignments or auctions. Get paid today on your classic or collector car at GMTVCC.com.
Hey, not to be dramatic, but you should smell this. It smells so good.
Whoa, that's quite the reaction to mixing and matching Gain scents. Let's hear another from Ashley, who mixed Gain products and went,
I'm so excited.
yes, you are. What about you, Isaiah?
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And Emily summed it up like so.
It is just chef's kiss.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Mix, match, more happy with Gain.
Huge news. Right now at Wendy's, you can get a Son of Baconator for just $3. I don't think you understand this situation. The Son of Baconator is only $3 for a limited time. You know, smoked bacon, rich melted cheese. That Son of Baconator is only $3. Thank you to whoever wished upon that star. For bacon that just won't quit, gotta be Wendy's.
U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska and Hawaii, not valid on a combo or on third-party delivery platforms.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
When you're trying to find quality candidates, all the searching, screening, and interviewing can become a job itself. You need Indeed, the all-in-one platform that makes it easy to interview, screen, and hire quality people. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Welcome to TGL, presented by SoFi, golf's newest league, live on ESPN and ESPN Plus. It's 2 hours of hammer-dropping, overtime forcing, playoffs on the line golf, Tiger, Rory, and more of the best from the PGA Tour, split into 6 teams. Learn more at TGLGolf.com. Tune in every week for TGL matches. Keep up, it's golf.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction reduction you may qualify for, so don't wait. For this free information, call the Relief Hotline at 800-390-0766, 800-390-0766, 800-390-0766.
Royals coverage sponsored by Renner Garage Door, forward and back, RENNER.
I was coined almost Andy Reid when I was on a radio show, and it's stuck with me ever since. Renner Garage Door can help you not get stuck out in the cold this winter. Book your annual maintenance or get a free replacement quote today.
RENNER, RENNER.
You're listening to 96.5 The Fan from the Mission Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling Studios.
Back here on Cody and Gold, Alex Gold, Logan Weber filling in for Cody. Cody will be back tomorrow. Drew Nixon producing the show. We'll check in with Josh Vernier, our Royals insider, here in about 10 minutes or so. He's got his hot stove show tonight. First one. Get us going. Leading up every Thursday until opening day, Vern's hot stove show. And then, Logan, you'll be on after hours tonight.
Correct.
Wonder what you'll talk about tonight.
Yeah.
From 7 to 9.
Probably the same things that we've talked about for the past 4 hours.
We will get back into the stadium stuff coming up in the 1 o'clock hour today. Both John Sherman's comments and the report from 95.7 FM today in regards to the Chiefs and maybe what they're doing in Kansas or not doing in Kansas. So that'll come back up in just a bit. But I do want to talk about the offseason for the Chiefs. But before that, you guys should have called me out for something I said. The text line was all over it. You guys, you didn't call me out. I was talking about the Sporting KC game last night.
Yeah.
And I said, how come they don't wear like the mask? And I said, why don't they wear those like full face mask things? And I said, those baklava masks. And you guys didn't call me out.
I'll be honest.
I'm talking about the balaclava mask. You know what I'm talking about. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Close enough, yeah.
You guys just let me slide with that? The text line was all over it. I was waiting for one of you to mention the baklava. Nobody. Someone says, dude, that's a dessert, man. The balaclava mask things. Yeah, those.
I know the dessert, but for all we know, there's also a mask that is called that as well. I don't know.
You would know the mask that I'm talking about. I think it's
what it's called.
It's like
balaclava mask is what it's called. Everybody I've ever heard has always called it a shiesty. That's what I've always heard it referred to as. But listen,
I was waiting. No, none of you. I was waiting. The text line was all over, and I was waiting for one of you to bring it up.
Alex, do I look wealthy enough to be just ordering baklava on a regular basis, man? Come on.
Have you ever had baklava?
I don't think I have.
I don't think so.
I have not either.
Cody's going to text in and be like, I've made it 5 times. I've made it 5. We'll talk to him about tomorrow, maybe on the show. But yeah, shout out to you on the text line that caught that. I appreciate you holding me accountable for that. But yes, not baklava. Anyway, let's talk about this offensive line. I thought it was interesting what Jeff Schwartz, of course, the brother of former Chiefs offensive lineman Mitchell Schwartz, and of course, Jeff played in the league as well. But Jeff Schwartz was on just his own social media account yesterday, and he brought up one thing about the O-line conversation that I think fans are ready to do something that maybe the organization isn't, and that is how we view Kingsley Suamataia, the Chiefs' second-round pick a year ago.
The other idea that I've seen around is just draft another offensive lineman at 31. Whew, buddy, you have other holes on the roster, right? I talked about, I'll mention them again, right? So the pass rush was horrendous against the Eagles. Now their offensive line is really good. We get that. They stopped the run really well, but you need someone to rush the passer. This is a great defensive tackle class. So follow that way for a second. Your middle linebacker most likely going to walk. I don't think the Chiefs are going to play Bolton. I'm not sure they're going to pay Reed, but you have Hicks and you have Cook. Like maybe that's a solution right there. You probably want one more veteran wideout, especially with Rice being suspended at some point next season. But Rice and Worthy look like a good combination. You need more though, right? Running back, it's a good draft for a back. I think they're going to draft a back, but you need explosive back, maybe another tight end. Like there's other holes. You need kind of roster guys for your offensive line. There's other holes that they have to fill besides left tackle. And it's not a tackle class. That's great. And so you're just drafting a project in Kingsley who hasn't even played yet. And now you want to draft another project at 31 but you haven't even tried the other guy yet. Like, unless the Chiefs decide Kingsley is the worst offensive lineman they've ever drafted and he is not going to play. Eric Fisher, guys, was not good as a rookie. Not good his second year, maybe by his third year. Like, they eventually got him good. Like, you need reps, but the reps last year, again, were limited because the Chiefs' goal was trying to win a championship.
I thought that was interesting from Jeff Schwartz because he played in the league. He obviously, and he has that perspective on the position. I think he's 100% right on the fact that this past year, was different than most teams because if you were in Tennessee, I keep using them today because they're just a bad organization, bad football team right now. You can have rookies playing and deal with the struggles. You're not protecting a franchise quarterback, all of that. You can just get experience. That wasn't what this year was about. So Kingsley did only play 2 games. I think a lot of Chiefs fans probably think he's like the worst pick ever. He was mentioning that. I think he's going to be a guard for this team and end up contributing over the next couple of years. I don't think they're just writing him off. I'll be honest, though. I don't think they can go into next season with him as the left tackle, though. But I don't think there's a long-term fix maybe available at left tackle either because he's 100% right on the 31st pick. That's why we had Bink on yesterday briefly talking about the mock draft and everything. I don't believe you can draft a tackle at 31 because he's right. You'd be in the same spot. It'd be another project unless you're trading all the way up. You're giving up multiple draft assets, get into the top 15 to go get one of the surefire guys. You're going to have major question marks if you draft another tackle. So it is either roll with what you have in-house / DJ Humphries at left tackle. You got to bring him back on a deal. Or do they go take one of the risky, injury-prone veteran left tackles that are out there as well? Ronnie Stanley is who I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. I don't think there is just go draft your next 5-year starter at left tackle. I don't believe that's in the cards unless they're trading way up, man.
Oh, no question. I agree with Jeff a little bit in the sense that we didn't get to see a lot of Kingsley Suamataia. And in the games we did, he had tough matchups, right? I mean, he started games against the Ravens and the Broncos, which have really good defensive line units. The Broncos led the NFL in sacks this past year. And then he started a game against the Panthers. But he did play some guard this year, and he played guard fairly well in the limited snaps that we saw from him. I think he fits that right guard spot a little bit better. I think it would be more of a seamless, or maybe not seamless, but a more seamless transition to take a guy like Kingsley Suamataia and put him at right guard rather than somebody you have to bring in via the draft or whatever else, although I do think guard is a little bit easier to draft than tackle is generally. I wouldn't be disappointed to see Kingsley get an opportunity. He'll have a full offseason at his disposal. And I do agree that you don't take a tackle at 31 because it's a game of liar's dice. You never really know in that sense. If you want a good tackle, you got to move up into the top 10 or 12 or 15. And I just don't think the Chiefs are capable of that. They do not have the draft capital at their disposal. You only got 6 picks in this draft, and you need those 6 picks to fill roster spots. And Brett Veach has become very, very good at finding value in the later rounds. You need those spots because you got 28 guys that are impending free agents right now. Some of them are restricted or exclusive rights, so you'll get a good chunk of them back. But Charles Omenihu and Nick Bolton and Trey Smith and Justin Reed and Derek Nottie, guys that are free agents that may end up somewhere else, you need those draft picks to fill roster spots right now. And if you want to move into the top 15, I think you have to trade off, not draft capital, you got to trade off a piece. You got to trade off a big name like a McDuffie or a Chris Jones, and I'm not sure the Chiefs want to do that.
Yeah, I also think Chiefs fans probably won't like this, but considering the options, I don't think it's completely out of the question that either DJ Humphries is a left tackle or go back 2 years ago when they brought in Juwan Taylor. Everybody thought he was coming in to be the left tackle. Now, they never gave a single rep to Juwan Taylor, I believe, at left tackle. And so they just said, no, he's our right tackle. They gave him the money, and he's been average, right? I think he hasn't been as bad as everybody thinks, but he's been fine, and maybe hasn't lived up to the deal, but he's been fine. Can you explore that more? Can you explore that more? Is it that he didn't want to play left tackle, that you just truly don't think he can play the position? I would be exploring that in the offseason as well. Is it possible that he could be your left tackle and Wanye Morris is your right tackle? And all of a sudden, okay, we've got some stable pieces. We're already paying Juwan Taylor a good chunk of change. Wanye Morris on a rookie deal. I think he can be a right tackle in this league. And Kingsley's your Trey Smith replacement. I don't think fans will love that idea, but I think that might be a realistic option because we both are saying 31, if you're staying there, you're not finding your long-term answer at left tackle. You don't have time to develop that guy. If so, then why not take more time to develop somebody else that's in-house? Or is there another Orlando Brown Jr. type of trade. And you guys recall a couple years ago when they struck out on Trent Williams, when it looked like they didn't like the draft clearly at the tackle market, which sounds like kind of where this is maybe trending. They found a guy that wanted to play left tackle, that was in the final year of his rookie deal, and the Ravens were willing to move on from him. I don't know if that guy exists this go around. Like, that's a pretty specific circumstance that has to happen. But if it's not that, even if you go sign a Cam Robinson, I don't think the Chiefs are giving him a long-term deal with his history. Ronnie Stanley, it's a big dice roll on a 1-year deal or 2-year deal because he played a full season this past year, but that's not been his track record. So I think the options aren't going to be ones that fans on the surface are necessarily going to love unless they pull off a really surprise trade way up in the draft or they find that Orlando Brown Jr.-ish type of trade from the Ravens a couple years ago.
If left tackle is your biggest need right now, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, and it is, I would say, at least in my view, it is. Unfortunately, the problem is at 31, you're not going to be able to make it work, and you'd have to give up a lot in order to move up in this draft. With that in mind, other needs begin to rise to the fore. I think you can find a day one starter on the interior of your defensive line in this draft at 31. You could go find another corner at 31 if you wanted to, and that will allow you to push Trent McDuffie back into the slot where I think he is at his best. He's an elite corner, one-on-one as a cover corner, outside or inside, but he's the best slot corner in football. If you put him there, I think that's where he's most comfortable. I think that would be a good fit. If you want to go get another wide receiver, fine. I don't think that that's your most pressing need. Or you could find a tight end, although I think Noah Gray can be the heir apparent. I think he proved that this year. I think there are other needs that you can fill more precisely and accurately at 31 outside of left tackle because it's a giant hit or miss at left tackle. It's too high risk, high reward in my view.
We'll get back to the Chiefs and also the latest on a report out there in regards to the stadium front for both the Chiefs and obviously it impacts the Royals in some form or fashion as well. In a little while, it's Cody and Gold, Alex Gold, Drew Nixon, Logan Weber is in for Cody today. Let's go out to Surprise, Arizona, though, as we continue to check in with our Royals insider, Josh Vernier, throughout spring training. He's got his Hot Stove Show tonight, 6 o'clock, here on your home for the Royals, 96.5 The Fan. Chris Bubich, Ben Kudrna, and Annie Rogers going to be on the show with you, Vern, tonight. I'm not going to ask about the weather again or anything like that. I assume it's gorgeous and perfect and everything like that, but you got a good show lined up tonight, 6 o'clock, right?
Yeah, looking forward to it. Annie's been here since the very beginning, so going to get caught up on anything that the Royals fan may have missed. And then Ben Kudrna, the local product, Shawnee Mission product, he yesterday squared off with his idol growing up in Salvador Perez. So we'll talk about that, and also him being, a year and a half, maybe less, away from the big leagues. And then Chris Bubich, who right now has, I don't want to say taking control of that number 5 spot in the rotation, but as JJ told you guys earlier in the week, a setback with Kyle Wright, the early spring setback with Alec Marsh has really laid a paved road for Chris Bubich to grab that number 5 spot. And shoot, I was just mentioning to him earlier today, you go back to that 2023, the miserable season that it was, the highlight, and we were joking about it, even though he only made 2.5 starts, the highlight of that miserable 2023 was Chris Bubich and those 2.5 starts that he gave you early on, as it showed you that it was a new day of Royals baseball, that there's a new approach when it comes to pitching and developing pitching. Bubich will get into that and make me sound really dumb with his Stanford education and the big words I'm sure he's going to throw.
That's all right, Vern. I was talking about like the winter mask earlier. That I was wondering why Sporting KC last night at their game weren't wearing like those, and I called them baklava mask instead of the whatever they're called. So it's all right.
That's fine.
You know?
Yeah, I would have known exactly what you were. I think that worked.
Yeah.
And by the way, I was just watching Seth Lugo throw his live BP, and boy, oh boy. He looks like the same Seth Lugo that was a runner-up for the Cy Young Award last year. Now he's undressing Royals hitters, so that's unfortunate. But this team last year was led by pitching, and if that Lugo shows up on opening day or day 2, pitching could lead the way once again. Just abusing dudes out there with his array of pitches. And Salvi, of course, chirping behind the dish, letting everybody know, strike 3, go sit down.
I love that. That's a great sign. Now, let me ask you while we're on the starting pitching for a second, Vern. Out of that group, maybe it still is Lugo for you, who would you, this is negative, but who would you be most fearful that has some regression or you deal with injuries, all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah.
The Royals were very fortunate a year ago.
Yeah, it wouldn't be Lugo, even though number 2 in the Cy Young led the American League in innings pitched. I mean, okay, some of those numbers might come back down to earth, but his experience, even though that he has a decade in the big leagues, there's certainly not that type of wear and tear on that right elbow or right shoulder. The guy knows his body very well, and he steps on the hill and 9-10 pitches. Okay, this isn't working. He just has so many other options. So it wouldn't be Lugo. Waka had the best season he's had since 2017. That, to me, is going to be difficult to duplicate. And then, Cole Reagans, to me, is still ascending, still finding more confidence. So to answer the question, I would say Michael Waka, and I'm assuming we're eliminating Bubic because he wasn't there, Lorenzen because he wasn't there. But, yeah, out of the big three, I would point to the the elder statesman, even though he's not age-wise, innings-wise, years-wise in the big leagues. Michael Waka's the KG vet. And, it would be tough for me to imagine him duplicating what he did last year. But you know what? Even if those innings come back because you do have that better bullpen, ERA might be a little bit better for Waka, even if he doesn't log those 170-plus innings.
So staying along the lines of pitching, I want to move over to the bullpen. What that looks like this year. We talked about the rotation. It started off slow last year, but it came on later in the year, especially when you brought in a guy like Lucas Erceg. You signed Carlos Estevez this offseason. What does that bullpen look like with those two guys alongside Sam Long, who had a good year last year? What have you seen from them over the last couple of days here?
Yeah, the return of Hunter Harvey, John Schreiber coming back. Angel Zerpa is going to be in the mix once Alec Marsh is right and ready. You could see him out there. I mean, I love that signing they just brought in yesterday, the non-roster invite of Ross Stripling, who, when you dive into the analytics, his numbers last year were not as bad as the ERA and the win-loss record would show you. But, man, when I look at the bullpen, to me, it's going to allow, and I was joking with Q about this, it's going to allow a little bit more debate on the postgame show because last year it was so easy. Not easy, but it was so obvious. Of course you let Lugo and Waka and Reagans and Singer face the opposition a third time through in April, May, June, July, and August. Now I think we're going to have a little bit more debate because you're going to have arrested Hunter Harvey or Erceg or Carlos Estevez. There's going to be so many more options. But as far as how they're deployed, I'm normally going to follow the money. Estevez making the most. I think he's going to get the most save opportunities. Lucas Erceg, who I spoke with yesterday, and man, did he benefit from that playoff run last year in learning his body. And, man, just what a toll that extra month takes on a pitcher who hasn't been to October. So a great offseason for Lucas Erceg as far as he wants to make sure that he's still ascending as we get to as we get to August, September, and into October, because he felt in October that he started to nosedive, and he wants to make sure that he's right. So I see him as the fireman. I see Estevez as your closer, and then you know how Q does it. It's all going to be matchup-based, and Lord knows he has plenty of options out there to call upon. You mentioned most of them, and shoot, man, I wouldn't be surprised if along the way a few other names pop up. Daniel Lynch, haven't even brought him up, but because of the setback that Marsh and Wright and others could befall over the course of the next few weeks here in Arizona, I wouldn't be surprised to see Daniel Lynch coming out of that bullpen as well.
We're talking to our Royals insider, Josh Vernier. He's got his Hot Stove Show tonight, 6 o'clock here on 96.5 The Fan. The other side story throughout spring training that I know I'll be keeping an eye on, and I don't think it's in at every park. You can tell me if the Royals shared park and everything is one of these, but they're going to have these robot umps in spring training. Yeah. What's your thought? I think it's the exact same format virtually of what they did in minor leagues. Isn't that right? So We've kind of seen this, but how do you think that could translate to even spring training?
Well, talking to Q about that earlier today, he's not putting too much emphasis, too much focus on it because it ends, right? It ends in 4 weeks. We're not going to see it in the regular season. Now, it'll benefit them as it'll likely be implemented for the 2026 season, but yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. To me, it's always been the best of the available options to help the umpires, right? The pitcher, catcher, hitter, you get a couple seconds to tap your helmet, tap your hat, to a lot like tennis. Go up to the board and we'll see exactly where that pitch was. Yeah, I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to, rival the pitch clock as far as the legacy of Rob Manfred. To me, it's definitely going to change the game, but it's going to make the game so much more exciting. It's going to make my post-game show a lot better come next year as well because, did Cole Reagans get a little amped up in that first inning when he called for the challenge, right? You got to be strategic about it, and I think that's going to add another layer of intrigue for the fan base.
Oh, I can't wait. I mean, driving home from Kaufman, and they're going to be calling into your post-game show. People are going to be saying, Vern, how did he not challenge that, man? Or the controversy, did he actually tap his helmet? No, I was just adjusting my helmet. I can just see it now. Oh,
yeah. Oh, no question. You're always adjusting something. So, yeah, I mean, you're going to have to. Yeah, you're going to have to be pretty. I would imagine because of the point you bring up, you're going to have to be pretty blatant about it.
Josh Vernier, our Royals insider, will be checking in again tomorrow. We got some actual baseball. Even if it's spring trade, it's going to feel good to hear the crack of the bat tomorrow, 2:00 right here on 96.5 The Fan.
Big Daniel Lynch on the bump. A lot of the big names going to be in the lineup. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and it's just the beginning.
That's right. There you go. Josh Vernier's got his Hot Stove Show tonight, 6:00 here on 96.5 The Fan. We mentioned a couple of the guests, including Chris Bubich, going to join him tonight. Be sure to check that out. And, yeah, I really want to see what it makes sense if you're Q, like, hey, why are we going to focus on the replay stuff this year because it's not going to be in baseball. But I'm kind of excited just to see what that looks like. I've heard about it in the minors, but I've never actually seen it, or heard it on a broadcast, if that makes sense. Like, I've seen some random clips that people will point out, like you tap and they quickly show on the Jumbotron, like it takes 15 seconds, if that, to decide if it should be overturned or not, and then you get your challenge back. But that is definitely where this thing is trending.
Absolutely. It doesn't affect the pace of play all that much. I have been to a couple of minor league games since they implemented the robo umps, working down in Springfield where the Springfield Cardinals are the St. Louis Cardinals AA affiliate. And I think that it is a step in the right direction. I think that you should not take it much further than where it's at because you risk losing the human element. And I know that there's some people that are like, well, it's got to be right all the time. That's not human. We love sports because there's a human element to it. The players playing in it, the coaches coaching in it, the executives, putting the teams together, and the umpires, referees, and officials that are enforcing the games. That's another part of the beauty of sport. I like the fact that in a big situation, bottom of the 8th inning, bases loaded, it's a 2-2 count, ball slightly outside, umpire rings him up, strike 3, and the guy's like, no, I want you to take another look at that. Oh, turns out it's a ball, now we got a full count. In big moments like that, it makes perfect sense. But I like the fact that you're limited on it, right? Because you don't want them to abuse it and be like every single pitch, be like somebody's reviewing this thing and you end up having 200 reviews a game. You don't want to see that. But I like the fact that it gives a little bit of control to the umpire and the player to determine, in a given moment, in the biggest moments of the game, what we're doing here. But the umpire is still in control and that human element remains.
The one time a game, because most of the time the umps are actually pretty accurate. I know we all think they stink, but most of the time they're actually really, really accurate in balls and strikes. But there's also a clip once a week or so where one is like way out of the zone. It's called a strike. You're just like, did you blink? Did you not see? It solves that. Mm-hmm. I just wonder, you're right, there's the strategy, but let's say it's in the World Series and there's just a big punch out to end the game and you've got a challenge left, so you're just going to challenge it. Does it make it anticlimactic a little bit? Like if you're going to have a pause in the action, what would be the final strikeout of a game? And you're like, well, no, hold on. You can't celebrate yet. Like that's the only part that I would wonder if that becomes a little bit of an issue. But in general, I do like the idea. Up next, though, we'll get to the latest from Diana Rossini, the future of Travis Kelce. She's got some new insight on that. We'll also work in the random question of the day here on Cody and Gold.
This is Cody and Gold on your new home for Chiefs football. 96.5, The Fan. Brought to you by Heartland Men's Health, the leader in men's sexual health. Thousands of men have been successfully treated for low T, ED, and more, all with discretion and compassion. Make your appointment at heartlandmenshealth.com.
From fast breaks to buzzer beaters to block parties, there's nothing as exciting as basketball. With Underdog, you can bring that excitement to wherever you watch. Playing on their app is as easy as choosing higher or lower on player stats like threes made, points, rebounds, and so much more, I love the Underdog app. So get those selections right, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money. It's so much fun. Millions of fans have won over billions on Underdog. Will you be the next? It's simple to join the fun. Join in by signing up for the Underdog app today using promo code BOB, and you'll get a free selection as part of your first cash entry. Plus, up to 1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. Must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Now Taxes is using Credit Karma, where TurboTax Expert can do your taxes for you. They'll get your refund so you can do more with it right in Credit Karma. Now this is taxes. Intuit Credit Karma with TurboTax. See guaranteed details at turbotax.com/guarantees. Experts only available with TurboTax Live.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why, when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Why pay more for prescriptions? Stop overpaying and start saving with SingleCare. It's easy. Find your prescription on singlecare.com, show the coupon at the pharmacy, and start saving. SingleCare works at pharmacies nationwide and is completely free to use, whether you have insurance or not. So the next time you fill a prescription, check SingleCare to make sure you're getting the best price. Take control of your prescription costs. Go to singlecare.com or download the free app today.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why, when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to the A to Z savings event at AutoZone.
Thanks. I need to change my oil. So how much is an oil filter?
Free when you buy 5 quarts of oil. Right now, we have a special on Valvoline Advanced Full Synthetic or High Mileage Motor Oil.
The oil filter is free with the Valvoline
Advanced Full Synthetic or High Mileage Motor Oil? Yep, the free oil filter is part of the A to Z savings event. Only at AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
When you're trying to find quality candidates, all the searching, screening, and interviewing can become a job itself. You need Indeed, the all-in-one platform that makes it easy to interview, screen, and hire quality people. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Welcome to TGL, presented by SoFi, golf's newest league, live on ESPN and ESPN Plus. It's 2 hours of hammer-dropping, overtime forcing, playoffs on the line golf, Tiger, Rory, and more of the best from the PGA Tour, split into 6 teams. Learn more at TGLGolf.com. Tune in every week for TGL matches. Keep up, it's golf.
This is the all-new 96.5 The Fan, your new home for Royals baseball. KFNZ FM and AM, HD1 and HD2 Kansas City, an Odyssey sports station.
1 o'clock hour, it's Cody and Gold. Alex Gold, Drew Nixon producing the show. Logan Weber filling in for Cody today. A little snow day for Cody. He'll be back tomorrow. We'll have a fan club Friday on the show as well. You guys can hit us up on the Jays Southland Tow Service text line, 913-586-7969. 888-967-2965. So the random question of the day, because we have Vern joining us, we're moving into the 1 o'clock hour, so we'll get to that here in about 8 minutes or so. Got one that I think we can all relate to in some form or fashion. It also ties back to a professional athlete, so I think it'll be a good one that we'll enjoy here in just a bit. But Diana Rossini was on the Rich Eisen show, and she was talking about a lot of offseason topics, including what she's hearing about the future of Travis Kelce.
I can tell you from just having a few conversations with people around the league over the last few days, there's definitely a sense that Travis is going to try to play more. I haven't heard anyone say, he's really struggling with what he wants to do. It's definitely leaning more towards that. That can, of course, change. This is going to be his decision only. But for this Chiefs operation looking to move forward here, I think they feel pretty good that Travis has got a little bit more left in him.
So that's Rossini, well-respected national NFL reporter, hearing some insight on the decision. I still think the longer it drags out, which he has time, the better anyway, like versus making a rash and rush decision, I should say, because if you were to have forced him to make a decision like a week ago, I actually think he would have been like, I'm out. But as time goes on, you get away from a little bit, you recognize still the teammates that you have and still I think the help you can bring to the franchise. I think things are trending towards that direction. Feel even better now hearing Diana Rossini. Like, if you had asked me today, like, I think he will be back. And yes, could it be a different role? I think it has to be a different role. And I think he was already willing to accept that last year prior to the Rashee Rice injury where his targets went up anyway. My only like quote unquote stipulation, and I think both sides will be able to work this out, is the $19 million cap hit. Whether it's adding a dummy year, whether it's a restructure, something like that, I think has to have. I don't believe he can be your third or fourth option and be a $19 million cap hit. But I think that's not a big hurdle. I really don't. I think that's something they can work out and will allow them some flexibility, because to me, Travis is not coming back unless he thinks he can win a championship again, because why would you? And so what helps them win a championship? Well, reworking the deal doesn't mean he doesn't get his cash still, but to the point where it's not a $19 million cap hit.
No question. This is a situation where if this would have been Travis Kelce at 28 or 29, maybe we have a different conversation, right? If Travis Kelce was Jawan Taylor in this situation, it's a different conversation. But Travis has a relationship built in with the ownership, with the front office. His relationship with Mark Donovan and Brett Veach is very, very strong. He's going to be willing to make concessions. He's not going to concede a single dime of that $19 million, nor should he. Right. But he will be willing to rework some things for the benefit of the team while still not sacrificing anything for himself in the long term. I agree with you that he can't be the number one guy and shouldn't expect to be the number one guy, and I don't believe he does expect to be the number one guy. I think he was probably looking to be the number 3 option alongside Xavier Worthy at the start of this past season. You've got Rashee Rice coming into year 2. You brought in Hollywood Brown. It seemed like he was in a position where he might get 70 or 80 targets, and that ended up having to balloon after Hollywood goes down in the preseason, Rashee goes down in the early part of the year, and you had to accelerate Xavier Worthy's timeline, which led to some growing pains early on in the year. Ended up paying big dividends at the back half of the year, but I agree with you. I'm of the belief that Travis is going to come back. I think giving him that extra week to kind of decide what it is that he wants to do. And it's hard to say, right? He knows that he's going to be in a more, at least physically, he'll be in a healthier position in a month. But if he would have had to have made that decision, like you said, this week or last week, while he's still dealing with the after effects of the season and the Super Bowl, and he's a little bit banged up, and he's like, dude, do I really want to put my body through this again? You give it a couple of weeks where he starts to feel better and he's healthier and he kind of forgets about the aches and pains that he was dealing with. It kind of opens your eyes up to the fact that he's had a great run. And I said earlier in the show, Travis has not been shy about the fact that he wants to play until, in his own words, the wheels fall off. He's always kind of exuded that guy. He's like, I want to play football until I can't play anymore.
Yeah.
And
the wheel might be wobbling a little bit.
It might be wobbling, but it hasn't fallen off, right? He's not as quick as he used to be. I don't think he's maybe as sure-handed as he used to be. Drops have become a slightly bigger issue in the last couple of years. Not that it's a huge issue by any stretch. He's not the same player he was 3 or 4 years ago. He understands that. Father Time is undefeated, although LeBron James is giving it a run for his money.
Absolutely absurd.
Yeah, it's insanity. But I think Travis is going to come back. I think he wants to come back. The Super Bowl, the pre-Super Bowl comments of like, I want to play 2 or 3 more years. That doesn't sound to me like a guy that 2 weeks later is going to change his mind and just up and retire. I don't know.
And the way the contract was set up, I mean, in August or whenever it was, when they reworked the deal and it was kind of an extension, I think at that point everybody was like, okay, this is probably the final 2 years. And then as the season progressed, and some of it maybe was just watching him play, but all of a sudden the conversation turned to like, oh, he's going to retire, or is he going to retire? Whereas in August, everybody I thought understood like, oh, he's probably going to play out the 2 yeas. And then the conversation shifted, including on this show, like, hey, if they three-peat, does that make it easier to walk away? And I will never know that answer. I don't know. Like, at some point I would love, like, way down the road when his career is over, like, hey, if they would have three-peated, if he ends up coming back this year, like, would that have impacted it more? Because I think we're discussing the loss and the way it happened, saying, oh, but that you can't walk away because of how it ended. Well, what if it ended with a three-peat? Would that have been, well, yeah, man, like I'm going out on top kind of thing? And I understand the money. It's a ton of money on the table still. But given the off-the-field opportunities, I'm not saying anybody wants to walk away from $15 million or something. But I don't think this is a money-driven decision solely from Travis Kelce. I think it's what we heard in that audio from a couple weeks ago. I guess it's only been a week now, from New Heights, where he acknowledged also wanting to make sure he's 100% there for his teammates, not half-ass it. Like, does he think he can support his teammates and be there with them? And that's the one thing you always hear about athletes missing when they retire, right? It's, yeah, sure, it's, there's some of the attention you get for being a professional athlete, but also the locker room, right? The camaraderie that you get with your teammates and everything like that.
Isn't that what, God, I don't remember who it was. It might have been Nate, where he was saying, I think if Travis had to make a decision by the end of the week after the Super Bowl, he would have retired. But being able to really think about it, and because you think about that stuff, not only your teammates, and not only how you feel, but giving your body and your mind, that week or two to really just decompress completely. I'm not thinking about football. I'm not picking up a football. I'm not doing anything related to the game of football. It gives you the ability to evaluate things a little bit more clearly of, yes, I'm not the same player, and right now my body hurts. Do I want to go through it again? It gives yourself that time to question all those things where you realize, I think, a game that you've played for your whole life. Like, am I really willing to give it up right now? Is it now actually the time where, yes, I'm sorry, what is it going to feel like when I'm not there? And that's where having Jason Kelce, right? That's where having his brother right there, who just recently went through this, is a nice crutch to lean on in a way of, is this something that you're comfortable with? How long did it take to get over the feeling of wanting to be back and all those other things?
That's exactly the point that I was about to make, is having Jason alongside him, who went through this a year ago, and seeing what the process has been like for him and giving him a little bit of extra time to have those conversations with somebody whose opinion he values maybe more than anybody else in his life, because he understands what it takes day in, day out, week in, week out to be a player in the National Football League, I think has been a huge boon for him, and I think is a big part of why I think that this extension was necessary. And it'll be fascinating to see, because I think Jason has benefited greatly in his post-football career. Travis sees that as an avenue for himself when his time in the league is done. But, Jason is a very point-blank and honest guy about, if you think you can still do it, then go ahead and do it, right? I mean, for Jason, he felt like his time was done. He had no regrets about it. If Travis has those, then I feel like Jason is the sort of dude that would be like, so go back and do it again. You don't leave the game thinking that you still have something left to give.
913-586-7965. That's the Jay Southland Tow Service text line. Someone says, dude, Mercedes Lewis is still in the league. I think Kelce is just fine. Well, we're talking about...
Is he really?
He is, but we're also talking about two completely different circumstances. Nobody's saying that Travis Kelce can't play for 5 more years if he's willing to just literally be on any roster in any complete role.
Yeah,
and whatever. Like, that's not what we're discussing. Being on a team like the Chiefs, finishing your career still having somewhat of a role, and at the dollar amount we're talking about. Mercedes Lewis is 40 years old. Yes, he's played in 17 games the last 4 years. Do you know how many targets Mercedes Lewis combined has had the last 3 years in the NFL?
20. Maybe.
Not even that, Drew. Not even that. It's like 14. So, yes.
He's also not a Hall of Famer.
He's also, like, we're just talking about two different players. If your point is just that, like, can he physically play for another 5 years? Yes, like, he can be a backup tight end 5 years from now for somebody, I'm sure. That's not how he's going out. Mercedes Lewis is just a dude in the league.
He's just collecting the check as long as he can.
Good for him.
The man's got 437 catches in 19 seasons. Travis has 400 and something odd catches in the last 4 seasons. Like, it's the usage rate is not comparable in this sense, folks. Travis has 2 times as many receptions as him, and he's played 7 less years in this league. He's been on the field more. He's gotten more targets. He's gotten more catches.
Yeah, if we're just saying, like, who can hang on the longest? Well, yeah, I mean, hell, Tom Brady could still be playing another 5 years if he, like, really wanted to.
Yeah.
You know, like the way he was playing still at the end. Like, yeah, sure. I mean, it's just how you want to go out. Mercedes Lewis, doesn't have like some legacy to hurt. Yeah. He's like, just keep paying me $1 million a year. He's fine with that. We're just 2 different circumstances. But
just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right. Absolutely. All right, let's get to the random question of the day.
Random question.
All right, this is one for everybody involved here. 913-586-7965, J Southland Tow Service text line. Yeah, I've got this one today. Right. In pre-show meeting, I came across this with you guys. TMZ, who just is everywhere, like it's unbelievable. They're literally everywhere. They have a video they posted today of Shohei Ohtani, of course, one of the greatest baseball players ever, parallel parking. And it's this long, really painful minute and 12-second video of Shohei Ohtani trying to parallel park. And this is like the most relatable I think Shohei Ohtani can be to any of us right in this moment. For a guy that is an absolute freak, going to start pitching again this year after the injury, multiple MVPs, future Hall of Famer, all of it. The video of the parallel parking, like, try to watch a minute and 12 and tell me it's not just painful. So the random question is basically, can you parallel park? When's the last time you did it? Because I think if we lived in a bigger city, we would all be like, well, yeah, I have to parallel park. The only time I had to parallel park on a daily basis was on my first job in Wichita. I lived downtown. Even in downtown Wichita, yes, my parking was right out front of the lofts or whatever, and I had to parallel park pretty much every day, and I got really good at it. Now, I don't really parallel park ever now, so it would probably be pretty ugly at this point. But can you parallel park on a regular basis?
I can. You know, one thing that I'll pride myself on now until the end of time is that I can parallel park better than Shohei Ohtani. There's video evidence of it. Parallel parking is the reason why I passed my driver's test at 16, because I nearly failed. The second time, I did fail the first time. But I don't parallel park often, obviously. Working in Springfield, where I was previous to this spot, in downtown Springfield, there were spots where you had to parallel park near the bars and whatever else. It's a college town, and my
spots, you
got to park on the street. So I would parallel park occasionally. I pride myself on my ability to parallel park fairly well, better than Shohei.
It's gotten way easier though. So like my car's old enough still that I don't have the rear view camera as well. If you have the rear view camera now, like, this should be easy, right? This should be very easy. There's also some of the cars now you just push a button and it parallel parks for you. But and how does Shohei not have one of those?
I don't know.
Maybe he likes driving the car that he has. I don't know.
I mean, it's obviously a very nice car, but someone says the parallel parking is their personal hell. What about you, Drew?
Last time I parallel parked was a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago. I was
where?
We were downtown going to a spot, and there was a spot on the street, and I was like, you know what? I am willing. I don't mind walking, but if there's a spot, I don't shy away from parallel parking to get a spot that's closer. I'm not. It's okay. I'm going to go find a spot where I don't have to parallel park. I don't shy away from it. If I parallel park, if I can parallel park, I'll parallel park. I feel comfortable. I will say, if you get,
do you have a camera on yours?
Yes, I'm getting this.
That makes it.
If you asked me to parallel park your car, Gold, I think I would have a lot more trouble doing it than I used to before I had a car that had a backup camera. Because now I think it is a very nice feature.
It gives you a little security there.
It lets you cheat a little bit.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, use it. I'm not great at it right now because I just don't ever. I mean, I do it like 2 or 3 times a year now at this point.
To Logan's point, when I was living in Pensacola, you go to a spot, definitely very much so a downtown condensed there's a lot of parallel parking. You got to parallel park at some point. That was quite often. You went downtown in Pensacola to parallel park.
Lance texted in just for you. He said, I avoid parallel parking like the Bengals avoid paying T. Higgins.
Yeah, well, they avoid paying a lot of other people, too.
Someone says, failing your driver's test is embarrassing. I told you guys I did not have to do I did not have to parallel park on my driver's test. I don't know. Is that a state thing?
I didn't have to parallel park either.
Yeah.
I did.
Shout out to Indiana. This is the thing. This is a Missouri thing. I wonder if Missouri still requires you to parallel park. Because, Gold, I'm assuming you took your driver's test in Kansas.
Of course.
I took mine in Indiana. So, yeah, I don't know. That might be a Missouri thing.
It must be. I did. And, yes, I did fail my driver's test first time I took it. Yes.
That doesn't mean you don't have your man card.
It was straight garbage.
This person is being too harsh.
It was a straight-up garbage charge. So I'm driving down the road. And, during the course of the driver's test or whatever, the instructor's like, hey, I want you to pull over onto the right side, onto the shoulder. So I pull over onto the shoulder, and then he's like, okay, pull out, back out onto the road. So I put my turn signal on, and I pull out onto the shoulder, and we go through the whole driver's test. I do everything. He's like, hey, you did a great job, but you failed. And I was like, why? And he goes, well, you didn't turn your signal on to exit off the road onto the shoulder. And I'm like, I didn't know that. And so this one minute thing, he just failed my entire test.
So wait, you needed to turn your signal on to get to the shoulder?
Yes.
And you didn't.
And I didn't. Which,
gotcha.
I mean, he's right, but that one thing, that one cause and effect caused me to fail my entire driver's
in fairness,
test.
Logan, how many times have you had to do that since you got your driver's license?
Less than 3, I would say. I had a car that same car I drove when I was in high school. It used to have this very interesting technique where you would just be driving down the highway and it would die. Like I would be driving 60 miles an hour on Highway 35. I'd hit my gas and nothing would happen. So I'd have to put the blinker on and go over to the shoulder. And I'm like, oh, this is great. But only a handful of times have I ever had to do that. I've done it more having to put my turn signal on to get back onto the roadway versus off of the roadway.
The reasons you fail driver's tests are like the reasons why geometry isn't used. You don't use geometry anymore. Like you get parallel parking, honestly. If you don't want to, you don't have to parallel park. There are options. If you want to walk a mile, you can walk a mile.
Although in some
you don't
cities,
have to parallel park.
some cities though, like you really don't have a choice. Like in some big city, otherwise you're walking miles. Like you better learn how to parallel park. I think if we all grew up in Chicago or New York City or something, we'd all maybe New York City you're taking public transportation.
Yeah, 100%. Get ready to learn subway.
Yeah, but you get my point. Like if you're in a major city like that, a much bigger city, maybe that's the case. But no, just go to Max Motors, get one of those self-parallel parking cars, and you're good to go, man. You're good to go. That's the random question of the day. It's a painful minute 12 watch of Shohei Ohtani. I'm seriously trying to park the car. And there's 2 people on the curb just watching him the whole time. And then Shohei walks out.
I wonder if he actually was. I wonder how they teach it.
What do you mean?
I wonder how he was taught, because I'm sure that there's really only one way that I know how to parallel park. And that's get your hood up to, or get up to side view mirror parallel. And then you go from there, I'm not
Drew Nixon, driver's ed teacher.
I was always told to get the front wheels of your car just ahead of the back wheels of the car you're parking. You're going to be parking in front of, so to speak, and then you just spin you spin that wheel as hard as you possibly can.
Get it right up against the curb.
Get it up against the curb. Straighten yourself out a little bit, and then pull in. I can 3-point. I have 3-point turned on parallel parking before. It's been nice.
Love that.
There you go. All right, I want to talk about an update that happened today, and I've told you guys when it comes to action movies and certain franchises and things like that, like James Bond in the Bond series is my favorite all time. And I know like the new Mission Impossible is coming out, I think in May, maybe right up Memorial Day weekend, something like that. And the Mission Impossible movies have been really good, but I'm still a sucker for any of the old James Bond movies. It's great. So today I saw that Amazon MGM, because remember they bought MGM. Amazon MGM announced that the studio is now taking the creative reins of the James Bond franchise after decades of it being under family control. They better not screw this thing up. That's all I got to say. I'm worried that Jeff Bezos is going to try to become James Bond himself or something in this thing, man. Like this is what the MGM Studios and the Broccoli family formed a new joint venture in which they will co-own the intellectual property rights. But now Amazon MGM will have creative control. I don't like this. I don't like where this is trending.
No,
don't screw up the Bond series, man.
It's funny. We were talking about that in the bullpen before the show, and Dusty had mentioned like when Disney bought out the Star Wars,
right.
Lucasfilm, and it I still think they're fine movies, but they just sort of seem to be, big time corporate, just burnout sort of, movies and films. And I'm a big Marvel, MCU fan, and it kind of feels that like that's been the case with the last few projects that they've done, although I've still enjoyed them. Yeah, I don't want to see it end up this way. I can't imagine. I mean, Bezos. I know that we're making the joke, but you can't have a bald-headed James Bond. I'm sorry, it just doesn't apply.
But this is crazy. The first time in 50 years, the next James Bond movie will not be greenlit by the Broccoli family. It's going to be Amazon making that decision. And they plan on, in the press release, it said they plan on expanding the franchise beyond movies. So now are we going to just get are we getting like a TV show spinoff of Bond? Are we going
you're going to get prequels and the origin stories sort of things, which those are becoming a huge thing nowadays. Is all these prequels that are trying to set up origin stories, which sometimes work and sometimes are awful. We know what James Bond is. Leave it to James Bond. I don't want to hear about how his parents died and he became an orphan and
hey, Skyfall was good.
Yeah, I agree.
Skyfall was really, really good.
I agree. I don't want to see a series that goes back to him as a 10 or 12-year-old kid and sets it up. Bond is Bond. And this is going to be fascinating because they're in the process of who's going to be the next James Bond, right? That one's going to be fun to kind of experience now that you're moving on to a new actor. Now you've got Bezos at the helm. Who knows what this is going to end up looking like.
Don't ruin it, please.
I have never in my life seen a James Bond film. Not one.
Say that again.
Wow.
Say that out loud again.
I have not one time watched a James Bond film, 007, whatever it is.
What?
Not watched one.
What? Is it? How is that even possible? Is this?
I said I'm not. Look, I said a couple weeks ago, I'm not a big movie person. I'm getting more into movies. I've never.
You've never seen even when back in the day. Well,
I watched
you're
movies
younger,
with Daniel
but
Craig, of course,
when
but not as James Bond.
When they were on Spike TV in the afternoon, even like the old ones, A View to Kill, Goldmember, all this, or not Goldmember, Goldfinger. Goldmember's an Austin Powers movie. Goldfinger. you haven't seen any of the old ones?
No.
That's stunning. I feel like we have to make you this summer go on a James Bond tour. You got to watch. I think you would like them.
No,
a lot.
I think I would too because I like the action movies. Yeah, I think I would like the movies.
I can't get over this. Is unreal.
I haven't taken the time is probably the best way to describe it. I haven't felt the need. I haven't sat down and watched it.
Text line's putting it all together. They said Travis Kelce will be the next James Bond. That'll be a, you know what? If that's what I understand the retirement. If they tell you you're the next James Bond, Travis.
Somebody said I lost my man card.
I just can't, dude. That's like one of the I understand. There's plenty of movies I have never seen. There's plenty of viewed as the greatest of all time stuff I haven't seen. For 50 years, James Bond has been, other than Star Wars, I would say the most
he's an iconic
successful movie franchise on Earth.
I agree.
And you haven't seen one. I don't know where you need to start. Skyfall is one of my favorites of all time. There's some bad ones. There's some bad Bond films. That depends on which Bond you like. Sean Connery, to me, is one of my favorite James Bonds.
Yeah.
Daniel Craig did a great job.
I thought he did. Pierce Brosnan was another good one.
Yeah. Die Another Day.
Yep.
I'm true.
Baffled.
We got to make let's compile, not today, let's compile a list of the 10 Bond films this summer Drew needs to watch. And I want some feedback.
Somebody said this is almost as bad as Q not eating McDonald's before. I don't think it's that bad, but
people are trying to figure you out, Drew. Yeah. They're trying to figure you out because they said you haven't been to Arrowhead. You haven't been to Allen Fieldhouse. Yeah. You haven't seen a Bond movie. What else? What else is there? What else are you going to surprise us with? We learned that you can beatbox a couple weeks ago or a month ago.
Some of the stuff just comes up on the fly where you guys were talking about it. And I'm like, I haven't watched one of those movies ever before. Yeah.
You've seen Mission Impossible?
Have I watched a Mission Impossible?
Neither Bond or Mission. Do you like action movies?
Oh, I like action.
What's your favorite action movie?
I don't know if there's one that really I guess can claim as the best. The Extraction movies with Chris Hemsworth have been very good. Extraction 2, very good movies.
I saw the first one. I'm
excited for the new Mission Impossible movie in May. I'm definitely excited about that.
My wife and I watched we watched all of the Marvel movies in order of so we've seen all of them and then we rewatched them all a year ago in timeline order.
Yes, sir. Chronological order. My wife and I do that every single year.
Yeah, in timeline order. So that was very exciting.
The new Marvel movie just came out, the Captain America. I need to watch other ones before I can watch this one. I read that I need to watch. There's a few I missed that I guess make it make more sense.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You got to watch
the
series on Disney Plus because that explains a lot of it. My wife and I went and watched that this past weekend, actually, on Saturday.
Marvel's falling off a little bit. I'm going to be honest. We're in that phase.
All right, we just need to rent out a theater and just play a bunch of Bond movies and force Drew to watch all of these.
Hey, from the 314, Scooby-Doo is my action movie. I mean,
that is true. You are Scooby-Doo over there.
That counts as
that is
action.
true. All right, up next, we'll get to what's trending. I'm still blown away about the James Bond take. Also, we will get into the latest report out there today around the Chiefs and a future stadium site.
Cody and Gold, brought to you by Heartland Men's Health, the leader in men's sexual health. Thousands of men have been successfully treated for low T, ED, and more, all with discretion and compassion. Make your appointment at heartlandmenshealth.com. Follow the station on Instagram for ticket giveaways and behind-the-scenes content from the show at The Fan 965.
Hey, Missouri sports fans, I've got good news. Underdog is available to play in your state. This basketball season, when your favorite star scores, you have a chance to win money by just watching sports with Underdog. It is one of the leading sports apps you can play now in your state from your couch. I mean, I can't emphasize enough how nice that is. Do you want to win up to 1,000 times your money? You can with Underdog. Look, to play, it's pretty simple. You're just choosing higher or lower than player stats. Tonight, maybe I like higher than 19.5 points for Desmond Bain. Or maybe you like higher than 18.5 points for Halliburton. You have those choices over at Underdog. Points, assists, rebounds, whatever you want. Your favorite leagues, teams, stars to choose from. Maybe you want to do a little NHL Four Nations action tonight. All of those things are available. And with as little as $1, you get everything right. You can win up to 1,000 times your money. So you really can turn $1 into $1,000. Download the Underdog app today. Sign up using promo code TAP to unlock a special offer for up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Join in on the fun when you sign up with that promo code TAP. Claim your special offer today and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Consult with your play code 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Basketball fans, don't miss the MIAA Basketball Championships March 5th through 9th at Municipal Auditorium. 18 games over 5 days, the nation's best small college basketball tournament will feature some of the nation's best Division II teams. Get your tickets now through Ticketmaster and visit odyssey.com/965thefan/events February 20th through 24th to register to win free tickets. MIAA Madness, March 5th through 9th. Bring your A game.
I love Hy-Vee for so many different reasons, but one of the things I love most about Hy-Vee is their customer service. Everyone that works at Hy-Vee is awesome. And you know what else I love about Hy-Vee? I don't have to sacrifice quality and service to get low prices. Hy-Vee just dropped the price on thousands of items in every aisle, in every department, on items I buy every day, both in-store and online. Hy-Vee even match prices with the nation's biggest discount stores. So check out Hy-Vee today and get those low prices only at Hy-Vee.
Something big is happening at Hy-Vee. We've just lowered thousands and thousands of prices on thousands and thousands of items in every aisle and in every department. Online, too. And on many of your favorite products, we've even matched prices with some of the biggest discount stores in the country. Because we get it, times are still tough. So we'll continue to work hard to bring you new lower prices on thousands of items. Things are looking different at Hy-Vee. Come see for yourself.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
It's really been amazing, the amount of people that I've had contact me, and the talk is generally centered around QC Kinetics, and whether it's a knee, whether it's a back, a hip, shoulder.
He's always happy to talk about how QC Kinetics all-natural regenerative treatments finally gave him relief without surgery. That's former pro football player Bobby Carpenter.
My message to them is do not wait and push off a week, a month, whatever it is. So if you want to feel better this summer, now would be the time to get in. If you want to feel better in the fall, make sure that you're getting in here so you can go out and play golf and do the things that you love and enjoy. away.
Spoken by a man who experienced relief firsthand. QC Kinetics gave this former pro athlete back his mobility, his activity, and they'll do the same for you.
Has really helped me in just my general quality of life.
Don't wait. Call QC Kinetics for your free consultation today. QC Kinetics.
Call QC Kinetics, 816-412-6299. That's 816-412-6299. 816-412-6299.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
We're back in the Miller's front yard who recently switched to True Green.
Their lawn started looking like a golf course, and PGA Tour golfers started showing up.
Like this pro, lining up his next shot from this pristine grass.
Has to clear the trampoline and a kiddie pool.
And lands in the middle of this beautiful True Green lawn.
Even the Labradoodle next door wishes this yard were his.
Get a PGA Tour quality lawn for as little as $1 a day. Sign up now at TrueGreen.com. Exclusions apply. See TrueGreen.com for details.
Chiefs coverage brought to you by Metal by the Foot, your metal project superstore.
At Metal by the Foot, we pride ourselves on delivering the highest quality metal to meet your exact needs. Located in Casey and Topeka, online at metalbythefoot.com. When you need a piece of metal, remember, metal doesn't have to cost an arm or a leg, just the foot.
You're listening to 96.5 The Fan from the Mission Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling Studios. What's trending?
What's Trending is presented by Baker University, where graduates earn higher salaries and land jobs faster than any other university in Kansas. Apply today at bakeru.edu. Number one is breaking news in the NBA. Victor Wembanyama, one of the bright young stars in the league, is expected to miss the remainder of the season with a deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder, so blood clot in his shoulder. Scary stuff, obviously, and hopefully it's not something that derails his career, but a very serious matter to handle, and so he's done for the season. It's mid-February, and that's it.
Spurs are going to be in contention for potentially a top 10 pick, somebody to try to pair with De'Aaron Fox, who they just brought in, along with Wemby and some of the other young pieces that they've got. So it could set them up for the future, but I think you said it really well. You don't want this to be a potential sign of things to come, potentially in Wemby's career, because he is a blossoming superstar. At 21 years old, to do the things that he's able to do at the size that he has is just remarkable. He's a guy who could make you a competitive, contending franchise in the NBA for many, many years. But there's always that lingering concern of, is this a sign of things to come? Is this a Greg Oden, Sam Bowie-esque type situation that we could be watching unfold in real time? Certainly hope that that's not the case. Taking a look at what's trending, Mizzou basketball, welcome to national championship contention. I know that seems weird to say, but you put 110 points up on Alabama last night, winning it 110-98. This is a team that is now 20-6. They're 9-4 in a loaded SEC this year. This Mizzou team is the real deal. They're ranked 15th in the country and could be a top 10 team before we hit next week.
Next up, Diana Rossini. We talked about this earlier in the hours. She says Travis Kelce is leaning toward coming back. She's hearing that, leaning more towards returning in 2025. Obviously, changes potentially what the Chiefs can or can't do in the offseason and just the makeup of keeping this core together for one more year, even if it's in a little bit different role. We'll see. March 14th is kind of that deadline to have it official. My guess is we'll know before, I don't think we're going to have to wait till the deadline on the 4th. We might know in 3 weeks or so, the official answer from Travis Kelce. But obviously it's nice to see that that report came out if you're someone that wants Travis Kelce back.
A lot of us do. A lot of us have been hoping.
Look, I don't know how you can't. I understand the dollar amount probably needs to be reworked, but otherwise, why the heck would you want him back? If I tell you he's your third or fourth option, and you know what he means still to most of the guys in that locker room, and you can work out a way where it's not $19 million cap hit, why wouldn't you?
He's earned the benefit of the doubt. He's the best tight end to ever play in the National Football League. He has earned the opportunity to stick around as long as he decides he wants to stick around for. Taking a look again at what's trending, Sporting Kansas City had a match last night in the first leg of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. It was a 1-0 loss to Inter Miami in sub-zero wind chill temperatures. If you were out at Sporting Park yesterday, I applaud you. I hope that you're not actively in a hospital dealing with frostbite-like symptoms. You got to see Lionel Messi score a goal. That's remarkable, but you're braver men and women than I am. There's no way I would have stayed out there yesterday.
No, not at all. You're right, though. If you paid the money, maybe, unfortunately, some of you paid way more weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks ago, but if you waited the last minute, tickets were cheap. But at least you saw Messi. If that would have been a 0-0 draw, like that would have been like, okay, we sat out here for nothing.
The only way that it would have been worth it is if Messi scored, and he did, so it made it worth it.
I mean, obviously, I wanted Sporting to win, but yes, yeah. And they'll have Leg 2 in Florida here in a week or two. And then this Saturday, I think Sporting's in Austin for actual MLS play. But yeah, that just brutal. I watched the first half or so of that match last night. Thinking of some intrigue that we normally don't focus in on during What's Trending. Hockey tonight, USA, Canada, Four Nations face-off, the championship game in Boston. Tickets for that are going for $1,100 just to get in the door. I cannot wait, honestly. I'm fired up. NHL has nailed this entire All-Star weekend festivity.
It's been a whole week, really. It's been like 10. It's been like a 10-day break.
It's been a great idea. Like, mad props to them because I'm a very casual observer when it comes to hockey. I'll watch the Stanley Cup final, and that's kind of it. Olympic hockey. And this, you're talking about representing your country, but you also have the big NHL stars on the team. This was a great idea. I think it's going to be a great hockey game because it sounds like Canada's getting healthier. And we know the crowd is good in Boston, considering Canadians booing the national anthem. Oh, man, the Boston crowd is going to I hope we get another fight early on in the match, on the ice, that is, not in the stands. On the ice, that is, which we got 3 of them in the first 9 seconds, so I'm fired up for this tonight.
This one's going to be fun. I said earlier, this is what the NBA should be looking at as how do they want to fix their All-Star weekend format. It's one of those things that we as Americans, like every other nation on the planet, we have our infighting, we have our things that we disagree on, but one thing we can agree on is that the United States versus everybody when it comes to a sporting event. We see it with the Olympics every 4 years. Hockey has really found some really good ground here. The Canadians are proud of their hockey. United States, who doesn't always pay that much attention to hockey, we're now all paying attention because it's the U.S. versus Canada. I love it. I think that other leagues should adapt something like this, especially the NBA with the amount of international influx that they have got put into their sport lately.
That's what's trending here on Cody and Gold. Yeah, Canada, USA, 7:20 puck drop from Boston. The U.S. and Canada, money line, truly even odds, both minus 110 to win. I mean, it is a true, pick 'em between these two countries tonight. And we'll see how this plays out. I can't wait to watch it.
I've got a question for you guys. So so I thought of it as we were talking about Messi, and you said you wanted Sporting to win. Is there any athlete that because of course everybody wants Sporting to win, but if they don't win, like if
soccer's a little bit
anybody
different,
that you would root for because they're this person to, if they beat my favorite team, I love them that much. They're that much of a person where it's good with me if my team loses.
The soccer, now I understand he had the one and only goal Messi did last night, but I view soccer's a little bit different. Like Messi there's a scenario where obviously he can have a goal or two and Sporting still wins. Yeah. In some other sports, like if Patrick Mahomes has 4 touchdowns, they're not losing.
Yeah.
You know, like, so I guess to answer your question, no, there's not if it's a team I grew up rooting for, I'm not rooting for that team to lose so some star that can go look great. No.
Like if you're going up against prime Barry Bonds, steroid Barry Bonds, I guess, and you knew, but Barry, let's say he just.
Yeah, in a regular season game, I want to see him hit a home run back in the day. Or I remember when King Griffey Jr. briefly was on the White Sox, like at the very, very end. The day or two he got traded, a buddy of mine, we went and bought tickets. The Royals were playing the White Sox that day, and King Griffey Jr. at this time he was very old, but like I wanted to see him. He was in town that night, so we went. Like I didn't want the White Sox to win, but I wanted to see King Griffey hit a home run.
Yeah, but if Barry went nuclear like Shohei did, where he had 10 RBIs and 4 home runs or whatever,
that would be historical. He
single-handedly beat your team. Like, you know what, we lost, but damn, that was a all-time performance
for a regular season. As long as it's not Game 7 of the World Series, sure.
Yeah, well, I had to contend with that myself.
Okay.
A week and a half ago, right? I am a massive Iowa Hawkeye fan. My dad was born and raised in the state. I grew up rooting for the Hawks my entire life. My dad comes to me during pregame right before Super Bowl 59 and says, hey, How would you react if Cooper got an interception in the Super Bowl? Like, what would you do if Cooper DeJean had a pick six in the Super Bowl? And I'm like, if the Chiefs win, I'm thrilled for him. If they lose, he becomes public enemy number one. Well,
dang.
The man spoke it into existence, and damn him for it.
It's your dad's fault.
It's entirely my dad's fault. Cooper DeJean picks off Mahomes, takes it to the barn. All of a sudden, it's a 17-0 game, and that was the point where I was like, okay, this one's not going well. This might be out of reach. And I was heartbroken that it was a guy like Cooper DeJean, who I absolutely fell in love with from the time he was a 15, 16-year-old kid and Iowa was recruiting him out of high school and he was playing high school basketball to now. I had to deal with that myself. And am I happy for Coop in a sense? Yes. But I hate the fact that he did that to my Chiefs.
Yeah. Makes sense.
He's
out here calling him Coop. He's got the nickname down and everything. I didn't know this.
I mean, I watched him for a long, long time.
We're learning something new. By the way, if you're just tuning in.
I wonder if Danon would call Cooper DeJean Coop at all, you know?
He might. Yeah, Danon Hughes is a Hawkeye, of course. If you're just tuning in, Logan Weber is who you just heard. Logan Weber, he's filling in for Cody today. He's hosting After Hours tonight as well from 7 to 9 here on 96.5 The Fan. Cody will be back with us tomorrow. All right, I want to get to a little update today. We touched on this earlier in the show as well. On the stadium front for the Chiefs. This comes from over at KCMO Radio. And it's discussing the Chiefs and the dilemma, if you will, that is going on, which is, I'll just read you a quote or two from the KCMO report today on one of their radio shows. And it said, the Chiefs have contracts on 5 different pieces of land in Kansas. The options on those expire at the end of March. If they want to continue the options on those pieces of land, they have to pay millions and millions of dollars after March 31st to keep those exclusive options. And it talks about the corner that we've kind of mentioned in the past, and Fesco had as well, which is the northeast corner of I-435 and I-70, which is right by the Legends and KCK. Like, that makes sense. Where it gets kind of interesting, it mentions in the same report, is that Mark Donovan wants to build a new stadium that will be able to close when it is as cold as it is outside right now. Mark Donovan, quote, is 100% all in to Clark Hunt. This is the only thing to consider at this point. Clark Hunt needs to be able to say that if he hears no more one more time in Missouri, he's out of there. They would go to the Legends. That is, again, from KCMO Radio earlier today. The Legends part is not new, right? We knew that. If the Chiefs, to me, aren't at the Truman Sports Complex, like, the Legends is where they're ending up. I think that we all kind of agree with that. Does the Mark Donovan part also, I think everybody's assumed. Mark Donovan is the main businessman in the face of that aspect of this franchise. And if you're looking from a business angle, of course the new stadium makes the most sense, right? Like, absolutely. But clearly it's convincing Clark Hunt to move out of a stadium in which his family has very serious emotional ties to, and his dad and everything and all of that. We've acknowledged that. And fans have emotional tie to Arrowhead as well. But it sounds like basically like Missouri, maybe you got one more shot. I don't know if that's coming. One more shot to not say no. And when I say that, I'm not talking about like a public vote necessarily. I'm even talking about just state support, city support, county support. And if that doesn't happen, maybe that's what it takes. One more time saying no, because it sounds like the ultimate decision maker is the one person who's on the fence still. Otherwise, if based on this report, if it was Mark Donovan's decision, they'd be going to Kansas. Because think about the business opportunities a new stadium brings, suites and all this. And I know a lot of people listening, like the casual fan, I get it. There are going to be downsides to a new stadium, PSLs, those personal seat licenses and things like that. We've discussed those over and over. But if we're just talking straight business, of course Mark Donovan should prefer the Kansas site.
Oh, no question. With the you talk about the stadium itself and the fact that it'll be new and all the things. What about the infrastructure that surrounds it, right? We've all gone to the complex, right? We've all driven by the Truman Sports Complex. For a while there was like a Taco Bell and a burnt-down Denny's. There was nothing else that surrounded the complex. So you move it to the Legends where you've got shopping centers and restaurants and hotels and all these things that already exist around it, room to create more around it. It makes sense. It becomes a little bit more of a destination, so to speak, outside of just the game itself, right? It brings more to the area, which in turn brings more revenue to the Kansas City Chiefs in that sense. I struggle so badly with the idea of an enclosed space, right? A potential of you can choose to open it or close it. Because, yeah, the idea that Patrick Mahomes will not have to contend with the adverse weather conditions is thrilling as a Chiefs fan, because you're like, wait, he's going to have ideal conditions every time he goes out to play football? That's great. But what makes Arrowhead special is what it gives you in January and late December when you're in a battle for a division or a 1 seed and you get to the playoffs. Arrowhead is a nightmare to come play in. Just ask the Miami Dolphins what that's like. And what it provides in terms of the feel for the fans in the stadium, the way the stadium is constructed and what it does for crowd noise. It's crazy to think because it's not that old. I mean, Arrowhead, built in 1972, is the third oldest stadium in the National Football League. That's wild to think about. And so, yeah, from that standpoint, it seems as though it's time for a new one. But new doesn't always equal better.
Oh, there will be pros and cons to anything.
Absolutely.
My whole thing, and I just consistent on this since the day they started talking about this, has been that I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense to use public money or even some private money, if I were the Hunt family, on renovating Arrowhead Stadium, because you just mentioned the age of it, Logan. 20 years from now, they're probably going to have to build a new stadium. So why wouldn't you do it when you're in your golden era right this second? And if you're just talking from a business end, in Kansas, you know what kind of deal they can give you. It doesn't require a public vote either. And I understand there's people that are very much anti-new stadium for the reasons you pointed out, which is the history of Arrowhead and everything like that. But I just... From a team standpoint and a business standpoint, this should be a no-brainer for them. It really should because of the opportunity. I wonder how many people are, and you guys tell us on the text line, how many people are anti-new stadium, plain and simple, or anti-new stadium in Kansas? Because there's some people that are just going to be upset if, in fact, they go to Kansas. And I understand that you're from Missouri, and you've spoken about that a little bit. I get it. Even though I've told you I lived in Kansas 95% of my life, and I've gone to Chiefs and Royals games in the state of Missouri and basketball games at T-Mobile/Sprint Center my entire life, also in Missouri. Mm-hmm. I have no issue. I've spent plenty of money in the state of Missouri. It is it's what it is. How many people are just against the idea of a new stadium because it likely would mean they're not in Missouri?
I think a great deal. I mean, speaking as somebody who's on the Missouri side, it's an opinion that I initially held for a very long time, but people are going to be upset if they go to Kansas. People, at least on the Missouri side of the state.
And I get it.
And that's the nature of the beast, right? There's always going to be that sort of border war mentality between the two states. That's fine. Doesn't mean that they're still not going to go across the border into Kansas and go see games at the Royals' new stadium if they were to go to Kansas, which I don't know if they will or not.
The reality is,
the Chiefs.
If there's a select few fans that say, "Hey, I'm not spending any money over there," the reality is also they'll fill the stadium still. I hate to break it to you, they'll still fill it.
There might be fans in Kansas that refuse to go to games because the team's in Missouri. I doubt it, but
over 50% of their season ticket holders are in Kansas.
Yeah, it's just the nature of the beast. And I tell you, nobody's more thrilled about this than those people who don't live in the metro or maybe aren't from the Midwest. And when they hear Kansas City Chiefs and they say, "Oh, well, they're in Kansas," and they get corrected all the time, those people are thrilled because they're not going to get corrected anymore. Yeah. They're going to be right for the first time.
I will say this, though. The idea, and again, if you're just joining us, there has not been any announcement. There's just a report out today that about, at least it sounds like one person in particular is very much all in on Kansas being the site for the Chiefs. But the retractable roof, if they build a new stadium, that's what it would be. But I would love for there to be like some almost some like strict guidelines of when it has to be open, because my concern would be there's other venues that have done this where all of a sudden they just never have it opened. And there needs to be like, unless it's what it is today, like negative, 2-degree wind chill or whatever it is out there right now. I haven't looked recently. Like, okay, that you got to.
You're saying if it's like above 30, if it's above freezing,
I mean, I would argue,
it's open.
not even that. Like, I would argue if the air temp is like 20 degrees or above, then that baby needs to be open still. Otherwise, I get why you would close it. That I don't know if that's what it would be, but that would be my stipulation on it, because it would also, of course, by having the retractable roof, would allow you potentially to have a Final Four and some of these other marquee events.
When is the stadium? When would it theoretically be built? Because we got two people who have texted him. Mahomes gets how many years in the new stadium? 2 or 3? I would.
Yeah, but this stadium, even though I'm saying build it while you're in the golden era, that's just about the momentum of the franchise. Obviously, the new stadium, you're not building it just for the idea that Mahomes can play in it. This is a long-term long-term build.
It'll be the house Mahomes built to some extent. You got it
when
because
will it be
of him.
done? Well, it depends on when they. I mean, this is why there's a timeline. I think pretty clearly. Exactly. I mean, the same thing with the Royals stadium. We know so the difference with the Royals, we know that they're out when the lease is out for sure. The Chiefs, if they had to maybe extend the lease for a year or something, maybe they would do it if it meant like buying some time. Football stadium takes longer to build than an NFL stadium. It just does, sheer size and everything. But I think we're still in the same 2030 to 2031 timeline.
I mean, if you think Mahomes is 29.
Oh, I mean, that doesn't really bug me. Like, if he only plays 4 years in the stadium, I don't really care.
He'll play at least 4.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more than a year or two.
Yeah, I don't think it. And again, if you win a Super Bowl while you're in that, and to me, also the noise thing.
Oh, it'll be plenty loud.
I don't want to compare it to Ford Field because I don't think that's necessarily fair to Arrowhead, obviously. But you hear the Lions fans when it's rowdy in that place, it is loud.
I mean, I don't have to explain to anybody if the roof ever was closed that it would be loud.
It would be insanely
loud. It would trap the sound in. Yeah, I mean, this is how the science works.
I mean, I don't know if you guys saw what the Bills are doing at their new stadium. So it's an outdoor stadium still in Buffalo, but they're building these like canopies that I can't remember what the percentage was. I want to say it's like 60% of all their seats will be covered, but it's still an outdoor stadium. I was intrigued by that.
Oh, that's interesting.
But if they were to build a new stadium, I think it would be a retractable roof. Someone says, make sure you talk about the new stadium charge and fees. We have talked about that in the past, and it'll absolutely be one of the biggest issues with the new stadium. The PSLs is what you're referencing, I'm assuming, the personal seat licenses, those one-time fees, just to have the right to own a ticket in said stadium, on top of what you pay annually. That's a real thing that just about every new stadium has had. Yeah, I'm not saying that like this would be like this perfect thing and there'd be no issues and it would be, no. PSLs would be one of the cons of a new stadium, but that's unfortunately the reality of how we've allowed stadium projects to be financed in the United States. In particular, there are very, very few, like Chase Arena in the Bay Area with the Warriors. There's like 2 others that I can think of that were privately funded. That's just not, unfortunately, that's just not how these things work. Public money is going to be used.
It is amazing how much Missouri people hate Kansas. I mean,
there's a border war. I mean, literal historical ties. But I do think in having gone
never
to
go
games,
to Kansas for anything. No, and that for those people, I understand if the Chiefs go, whatever. But do you literally not cross the border then? Do you not spend any money in Kansas? Because if you do, then it doesn't make any sense why you're mad.
I'll say I grew up on the Missouri side. I'm about 45 minutes from the border, so to speak, 40 or 45 minutes. The only time I can ever recall going to Kansas purposefully was to go to a sporting game or to the Kansas Speedway or Nebraska Furniture Mart. Those were like the only 3 reasons that we ever went from Missouri over to Kansas.
But that's the same thing. I mean,
exactly.
But that's the same thing for me. Like, if I go to Missouri, most of the time has been related to sporting events. I mean, that's just the reality. Like, I get people are passionate about this on either side, depending on where you're at. And some of it is because of where you live. Some of it is because of the nostalgia, all that. But, like, these texts always crack me up. Like, it says, the Chiefs are a Missouri team. If you leave Missouri, it changes a lot. It doesn't matter if it's Kansas City, or not. If the Chiefs move to Kansas, they're Kansas City's team, and then by your tweet and text, then they're Kansas's team. Like, what are we? All these years you saying it was Missouri's team? Like, it makes no sense.
It's still Kansas City.
The most important thing about these stadium projects is keeping them in the Kansas City region, whether it's in Missouri or in Kansas. Ultimately, that is the number one goal that I have.
They're not moving
in
them to St. Louis.
Thing.
They're not moving them to Gardner City, Kansas.
And that's the goal, is they need to stay here, all right? Don't get so petty that they end up having to go somewhere else, because I know Nashville is hot for a Major League Baseball team.
I mean, most likely, I think one ends up in Kansas and one team stays in Missouri. All right. Thanks for filling in, man. Logan, good stuff today. Logan Weber tonight. He'll be on from 7 to 9 for After Hours. Cody's back with us tomorrow right here on Cody.